Tonight, I want to take you somewhere most people never truly dare to go. Not just into the Colosseum, but under its skin. You've heard the legends, seen the movies. Brave men in bronze, roaring crowds, a single thumb deciding life or death. But the truth is stranger and darker than you've ever imagined. This isn't a story of heroes. This is the story of survival in a place built on cruelty, spectacle, and blood. For the next few hours, I'll take you through the tunnels, the shadows, the hopes and nightmares of those who fought for their lives, so that others could feast their eyes. If you think you know the story of Rome's gladiators, tonight, I promise you'll never see them the same way again. But before we begin, let's do something that always makes these stories special for me. Tell me, from which city in the world are you watching right now? And what's your favorite food? Seriously, I'm obsessed with food. Roman feasts, street snacks, the simple bread a fighter might eat before stepping into the sand. I love it all. So drop your city and your favorite dish in the comments. It's amazing to see how far these stories travel, and I'm always looking for new flavors to try. Alright, take a breath, dim the lights, and imagine the air thick with torch smoke and tension. Because tonight, you're not just a spectator. You are the gladiator. You awaken before dawn, in the darkness beneath the Colosseum. The first thing you notice is the smell: sweat, smoke, old blood, and the sour tang of fear. All around you, the bodies of men stir on filthy straw mats, their skin marked by scars and bruises, their faces caught somewhere between exhaustion and dread. There are Gauls, dark-haired Greeks, wiry North Africans, and Romans who lost everything in a single unlucky bet. Some are prisoners, others slaves, a few free men who fought for coin but discovered too late the cost. Above your head, stone arches drip with cold. The only light comes from flickering torches in the corridor. You don't know what time it is. Down here, time is a rumor. You could be 20 steps beneath the city or 20 miles. Your world has narrowed to the pounding of your heart and the ache in your limbs. You sit up, feeling the familiar bruises from training and punishment. Your arms are sore, your ribs still raw from yesterday's blows. You don't remember how long you've been here. A few months? A year? You do remember the first night. The shouts in a language you barely understood. The iron collar snapped around your neck, the brand pressed to your skin. Since then, you have learned the only rule that matters. Survive for one more dawn. A voice murmurs a prayer in a language older than Rome. Another man sobs quietly. Someone nearby coughs, spitting blood into the straw. It's never silent in the cells, not really. Too many men with too many ghosts. Suddenly, the iron door slams open, and two guards enter. Faces blank, armor glinting in the torchlight. Behind them comes Cassian, the trainer. He is huge, brutal, with a nose broken more times than you can count and a gaze that could split stone. He looks you all over, weighing the living and the half-dead with the same cold indifference. "Get up," he barks. "The crowd's already hungry. Eat, drink, arm yourselves." Bowls of porridge, gray, sticky, cold, are shoved into your hands. The only taste is fear. You drink water from a battered clay cup, enough to wet your tongue but not enough to quench the ache. Cassian shoves your gear into your arms. Patched leather, a battered shield, a helmet that stinks of old sweat. The sword is heavy, the blade chipped, its grip slippery with oil. A new man stands beside you. Young, maybe 17, eyes huge with terror. He hasn't yet learned how to hide it. You want to say something to him, some word of comfort, but nothing comes. There are no friends in the arena, only survivors. "Pairs today," Cassian says. "Fight for the crowd, or fight for the beasts tomorrow. Either way, fight like you want to live." You line up, 8 men wide, armor clanking, hearts hammering. A horn blares above, echoing down the stone corridors. The gates at the far end of the hall begin to rise, and a blade of sunlight cuts through the darkness. The roar of the crowd seeps in low, hungry, growing louder with every step. You march out, blinking, blinded by the sudden light. The sand is pale, already stained dark from yesterday's games. You can barely hear your own thoughts over the ocean of voices. Rome is a living beast, and today it wants to see you bleed. In the stands, thousands scream, laugh, and wager. High above, shaded by purple silk, the emperor reclines on a golden couch, wine in hand, a bored expression on his face. His thumb is a god, one flick, and your life or death is decided. A herald steps forward. From the house of Magnus, condemned men and slaves, fighters for your pleasure. The crowd answers with a roar. The trumpet blares again. Opposite, another gate crashes open. Out come your opponents, criminals, prisoners of war, men who might have once been friends. Today it doesn't matter. The fight is chaos. Steel on steel. A man screams as a blade bites into his thigh. Someone falls. The young boy beside you tries to run and is caught in a net, dragged down as the mob howls with laughter. Shields shatter. Sand turns slick and red beneath your feet. You fight not to win, but to be seen, to give the crowd a story they'll remember. You block, swing, duck, and lunge, each movement driven by fear and the desperate need to see another sunrise. Time dissolves. You don't know how long you fight. Your arms ache, your lungs burn. Blood spatters your face. Some of it yours, some not. The sun crawls overhead, and you start to forget who you are. There is only the sand, the noise, and the promise of pain. Suddenly, a trumpet sounds again. The fight stops. Fighters freeze, eyes darting up at the stands. The herald calls out, and the emperor raises his hand. For a moment, all of Rome waits. A thumb turns, mercy. The crowd groans, hungry for more. But you and the few left alive are spared. Guards drag you back into the shadowed halls, your body trembling, your mind numb. Behind you, the roar of the crowd fades, but it's never truly gone. Back in the cell, Cassian's voice is almost kind. Eat, drink, rest. Tomorrow, Rome will be hungry again. You collapse onto your straw, hands shaking. You stare up at the blackened ceiling and wonder how many more days you have left. This is the truth of the gladiator. Not glory, not fame, but the desperate scramble to stay alive. And tomorrow you will bleed for them again. You do not sleep, not really. Your body finds a half-dream somewhere between pain and exhaustion, but your mind refuses to settle. In the darkness, every distant shout or scrape of sandal against stone could be the start of another day. Another summons. Another chance to die for the crowd's amusement. You lie awake listening to the soft chorus of the damned. A Gaul's restless muttering, a Thracian's sharp, nervous breath, the dull cough of the North African who sleeps near the door and never speaks. Somewhere, a man sobs quietly for his lost home, his voice breaking as he begs gods who do not listen. Your own memories come in flashes. The fields of your childhood, the taste of honey on bread, the face of your father as he hoisted you onto his shoulders. But those days feel like another life. Here, in the belly of the Colosseum, time is measured not in years but in beatings, wounds, and games survived. If you dream at all, you dream in red. The color of sand, the color of wounds, the color of the sun as it sets behind the distant hills of Rome. Eventually, footsteps echo down the corridor. The morning guards are coming, and there is nowhere to hide. You sit up, muscles screaming, back burning from yesterday's bruises. Some men pretend to sleep a little longer, hoping to avoid a trainer's notice. But Cassian is not a man who misses much. The iron key grinds in the lock. The cell door groans open. Up, Cassian growls. His voice is deeper and rougher than before, and today his temper is short. Up, all of you. There is work to be done. Men stumble from their straw, faces slack with fatigue. Today there is no arena yet. Today is for training, for patching wounds and forging new scars. You form into a ragged line and follow Cassian through the tunnels, up winding stone stairs that climb like a corkscrew toward a sliver of pale daylight. The smell of torches and damp stone is replaced by the fresh, almost shocking scent of morning air. For a moment you drink it in. Rome is waking above you. Somewhere, bakeries are filling with the smell of bread, markets are opening, and children are already at play. But you, property, not person, are led to the sand of the training yard. The ludus is nothing like the arena. There are no crowds, no emperor, only trainers and the hard eyes of other fighters. The sand is coarse and dark, stained in places by ancient blood. Weapons, wooden swords, battered shields, blunted spears, are stacked along the walls. You stretch stiff limbs, stealing quick glances at the new arrivals. Some are so young their faces are still round with baby fat. Others are as battered as old leather, their bodies crosshatched with scars. Cashin marches up and down, barking orders. Form pairs, take up arms. Remember, the crowd only loves those who live long enough to die well. If you show fear, you will die poorly, and the crowd will not care. He snatches a wooden gladius from a rack and tosses it at you. The wood is heavy, polished smooth from 100 hands, but it bruises almost as cruelly as steel. You square off against a man named Felix, a Spaniard with quick feet and a smile that never reaches his eyes. "Try not to bruise my face," he whispers. "The girls in the kitchens like it unbroken." You manage a weak smile, but there's no room for laughter as Cashin yells for you to begin. The first blows are cautious, each of you testing the other's guard. Felix is fast and he likes to play. You parry, circle, try to keep your breathing steady. Around you, the sounds of the ludus swell. The slap of wood on wood, the grunts of effort, the curses of men who refuse to yield. Cashin prowls like a wolf among sheep, shouting corrections, punishing mistakes with a sharp strike from his staff. He yanks a shield from a clumsy Gaul, hurls it aside, and barks, "Dead already! Again!" Your own bout grows fiercer. Felix sweeps your legs, sends you sprawling in the sand. You scramble up, eyes watering, and charge. This time your blow lands, wooden blade thudding against his thigh. He grins, teeth bloody, and claps you on the shoulder. "Well done, friend. I owe you a cup of wine, if we ever see the inside of a tavern again." You train for hours, sweat soaking your tunic, muscles screaming with every motion. Between drills, Cashin lectures you on the ways of the arena. How to play to the crowd, how to spot a real threat from a man only pretending to fight, how to beg mercy with dignity if you are ever brought to your knees. He shows you the scars on his arms, each one a lesson, each one a warning. "You see this?" he says, pointing to a thick ridge across his forearm. "A moment's hesitation. Never turn your back, even if the crowd screams your name. Rome's favor is as fickle as a spring storm." He gestures for you to watch as two seasoned fighters face off at the center of the yard. One is a hulking German, the other a wiry Egyptian with eyes like burning coal. They circle each other, shields raised, moving in a silent dance of death. The German lunges, fast, brutal, but the Egyptian sidesteps, strikes, and in a blur, sends the giant crashing to the sand. Cashin nods. "That is how you live. Quick, merciless. Learn from him, or you will join the bones beneath the sand." By midday, you are drenched in sweat and raw from head to toe. A slave brings water, and you drink greedily, not caring that it tastes of leather and old metal. A bowl of coarse bread is passed around. You devour it in 3 bites, thinking of the feasts rumored to take place above. Tables groaning with roasted boar, honeyed figs, fine wine flowing like water. Down here, hunger is the only constant companion. Training resumes, but now Cashin introduces new horrors. Mock fights with nets and tridents, shield drills that leave your arm numb, lessons on how to fall in the sand without snapping your own spine. You learn to watch your footing, to keep your shield up even when you can barely lift it, to trust no one, because in the arena, mercy is a story for children. In the afternoon, a medicus walks among you, checking wounds, dabbing ointment on cuts, wrapping bruised wrists. He shakes his head at the new boy, the one who cried during the night, and mutters, "He won't last." The crowd eats the weak. You wonder how long it will be before someone says the same about you. As dusk falls, Cashin gathers you in a circle. His voice is quieter now, almost gentle. "Tomorrow some of you will fight. Some of you will die. Some of you will see another dawn. But remember, every scar is a story. Every breath is stolen from the jaws of Rome. Survive and you become more than a slave. You become a legend, if only for a moment." He dismisses you with a nod. You limp back toward the cells, every bone aching, every thought heavy as lead. As you settle once more onto your straw, you glance at the man beside you. Felix, who fought you and laughed. "Still alive," he says, voice soft. "For now," you reply. He grins in the darkness. "That's all any of us can ask." Above, the city of Rome glows with torchlight. The sounds of revelry drift down, distant but unmistakable. You close your eyes, letting exhaustion finally claim you. You dream, not of home, but of sand, sweat, and the endless roar of the crowd. A song you cannot escape. In the morning, the games will begin again, and you will be there waiting, blade in hand, praying to gods you do not believe in for one more chance to survive. The morning arrives as a pale, cold light filtering through cracks in the stones above. You wake with a start, heart hammering, mind already anticipating the day ahead. Sleep has not refreshed you. Instead, it has delivered you more ghosts. Faces of those you've seen fall, dreams of home so vivid they sting when you open your eyes. The cell is alive with anxious energy. Men speak in hushed tones, voices trembling with nerves and anticipation. Felix sits up, rubbing his eyes, then glances at you with a half grin. "Today's the day," he whispers. "Luck or death." You nod, not trusting your voice. A guard appears, holding a wax tablet and a stub of charcoal. He reads out names, pairing men for today's games. You listen for your own, stomach tightening as each name is called. When the list is finished, you're matched with Felix, an odd comfort, a thread of trust in a world where trust is dangerous. A brief nod passes between you, no more words needed. Cashin enters, all business. Eat, drink. You'll need your strength. A thin bowl of lentil gruel is passed down, and you swallow it in 3 bites. Water comes next, ladled out of a cracked jug. Then your gear. A patched leather cuirass, battered shield, the same sword as yesterday, wiped clean but not sharpened. The weight of it in your hand is at once familiar and terrible. Cashin checks you over, his eyes lingering on the bruises, the scrapes. He offers a rare word: "Don't let your guard drop." The crowd loves drama, but Rome eats the careless. You nod. Felix gives a mock salute. The time comes. Guards lead your cohort through winding, torchlit corridors toward the arena. The air is thick with anticipation and the metallic scent of old blood. As you march, you pass other fighters. Some injured, some victorious, some nothing but shadows left to the darkness. One man, his arm bound in bloodied rags, catches your eye. "Stay low," he murmurs. "Never let them see you panic. They love the scent of fear." You emerge into a narrow tunnel just below the arena's edge. The roar of the crowd washes over you. A living, breathing tide of sound, eager and unfeeling. Light floods in from above, dazzling after the gloom. A heavy portcullis bars your way, its iron teeth glinting in the sun. For a moment, time stretches. Felix grips your shoulder. "If we get out of this," he says, "I'll buy you the best wine in Rome." You manage a smile. Then the horn sounds, a deep, thunderous note, and the gate creaks open. You step into the arena, sand shifting beneath your sandals, eyes struggling to adjust to the blaze of light and the sea of faces above. The Colosseum rises around you, monstrous and alive. Tens of thousands fill the seats. Senators and slaves, matrons and market girls, all hungry for spectacle. The herald announces you and Felix, voices amplified by the walls. A brief cheer for your pairing. A louder one for the pair emerging from the opposite gate. 2 veterans, one tall and scarred, the other squat and savage, both clearly comfortable in this killing ground. A silence falls as all eyes turn to the imperial box. The emperor, swathed in purple and gold, raises his hand, fingers heavy with rings. He offers the faintest nod. Trumpets blare. The fight begins. You and Felix circle, shields raised, watching your opponents with every sense on high alert. The tall veteran lunges at you, sword flashing, and you barely deflect the blow. Felix locks shields with the squat fighter, both men straining for advantage. The crowd is merciless, screaming for blood. howling with every near miss and solid hit. You focus, falling into the rhythm Cashin taught you. Parry, riposte, keep moving. The sand gives little purchase, and your feet slip as you sidestep a vicious swing. The tall veteran presses hard, driving you backward, but you lower your shield and catch him with the edge, feeling bone and muscle buckle beneath the blow. Felix is faring worse. His opponent is relentless, hammering blows against his shield, grunting with effort. You dart forward, distracting the veteran with a quick feint, then risk a glance at Felix. Blood runs from his scalp, but his eyes are fierce. He shouts something you can't hear, a warning or a curse. The crowd senses the shift. A chant rises, first low, then thunderous. Kill! 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 You feel the animal terror rise, but you force it down. This is what Cashin warned you of. The crowd is a monster, and it wants a show. You can't give them fear. You duck a swing, roll across the sand, and come up swinging. Your blade connects with the veteran's thigh, and he roars, stumbling. Felix, seizing the moment, batters his opponent's shield aside and lands a brutal punch, sending the man sprawling. Now you and Felix stand, side by side, against the two veterans, all four bloodied, breathless, locked in a deadly ballet. Suddenly, the squat fighter lunges, catching Felix off guard. Steel bites into Felix's forearm, and he drops his shield with a cry. You scream, charging the squat man, driving him back with a flurry of wild blows. The tall veteran, limping, circles warily, his eyes cold with calculation. The world narrows. There is only sand, blood, and the roar of the mob. You block, swing, dodge, your muscles burning, lungs desperate for air. Felix, wounded, manages to recover his shield, fending off the squat man's relentless assault. Then, with a desperate surge, you feint left and drive your blade through the tall veteran's guard. The point bites deep. He gasps, collapsing onto the sand, blood bubbling at his lips. The crowd explodes, half cheering, half booing, all ravenous for more. Felix, bleeding but alive, manages to trip his opponent and, with a final, exhausted swing, knocks the squat man out cold. For a moment, you and Felix stand alone in the arena, chests heaving, blood dripping from your wounds. You glance up at the Emperor, waiting for the verdict. His hand hovers, thumb extended. The crowd chants, some for mercy, some for death. The Emperor finally turns his thumb sideways, a rare gesture, meaning you've earned a reprieve. The gates open, and guards rush in, dragging away the fallen, guiding you and Felix back into the shadowy tunnels. Felix sags against you, breath ragged. That wine better be good. You laugh hoarse, shaky, but real. First round's on you. Back in the cells, Cashin meets you with a look that's almost proud. You did well. Rest. You'll need all your strength. Tomorrow, Rome will demand more. Felix slumps onto the straw, eyes closed, hand pressed to his bleeding arm. Still alive, he mutters. You lie beside him, staring at the ceiling, the crowd's roar echoing in your ears. For tonight, at least you have survived. But as the darkness creeps in, you know the sands will claim you again, and again, until either Rome grows tired of your story, or you become just another name lost beneath the blood and dust. Night inside the cells is a strange kind of quiet. The crowd's roar fades to a distant rumble, like a storm rolling over the hills. You lie awake, every muscle aching, every joint stiff, feeling the sting of new cuts and the dull pulse of bruises beneath your skin. Felix sleeps fitfully beside you, his breathing shallow, one hand curled protectively around his bandaged arm. Across the cell, a few men murmur to each other in the darkness, some reliving the fight, others dreaming aloud of freedom, or simply whispering names of loved ones to the stone. It's easy, in these hours, to believe that you're less than a man and more a beast, something bred for pain and spectacle. Down here, beneath the city, identity slips away. You are not a citizen, not a son, not even a slave with a name. You are a tool sharpened and dulled by violence, fed only enough to keep fighting. The next morning arrives as a slow, agonizing crawl. A torch guttering in the hallway signals the guard's approach. Cashin enters with his usual thunderous scowl, but today he is not alone. Trailing behind him is a figure you have only seen from afar. A man in dark, richly dyed robes, clean-shaven, with eyes that flicker with sharp calculation. The Lanista. He is the owner of this house, the one who profits from your suffering, who bets on your life and death. Men tense as he walks among you, examining wounds, sizing up bodies as if you were livestock at market. His hands are soft, but his eyes are cruel. He stops in front of Felix, lifting the blood-stained bandage with a look of disgust. Too much damage. He'll sit today, he declares, voice clipped. Then he turns to you, studying the bruises across your ribs and the crusted blood on your jaw. He smiles thinly. You, however, have earned the crowd's attention. You'll fight again tomorrow, and tonight you'll attend the feast. A ripple of unease travels through the cell. The feast is not for you. It is for the men and women above, the wealthy, the powerful, the senators and merchants who own Rome. Gladiators are brought as living trophies, paraded before guests, sometimes ordered to drink, to sing, even to perform mock bouts for the amusement of the diners. Few look forward to it. Cashin gestures for you to rise. Eat, drink, and clean yourself. The Lanista wants you to look like a conqueror, not a beaten dog. You are led to the baths, an unexpected luxury, though one with its own cruelty. The water is hot, the room clouded with steam and the heavy scent of oil and herbs. A slave hands you a scraping blade to rid your skin of grime and dried blood. Your reflection in the water startles you. You look older, harder. Eyes shadowed, jaw clenched, hair cropped unevenly. There is a scar above your eyebrow you do not remember earning. You dress in a simple white tunic, belted at the waist, and are given sandals cleaner than anything you've worn in months. Another slave fastens a narrow band of bronze around your bicep, a mark of your status as a survivor, as a favorite of the games, at least for today. Before you are led away, Felix catches your eye. Eat something for me, he jokes weakly, and steal me a loaf if you can. You manage a smile and nod, but inside, you feel the weight of leaving him behind. The feast is held in the atrium of a wealthy patron's house. Marble columns rising high into the gloom, lamps hanging from golden chains, tables crowded with every delicacy you have ever imagined. Roasted peacock, honeyed dormice, loaves of soft white bread, platters of grapes and figs, bowls of olives slick with oil. Perfume and wine hang thick in the air. You are paraded, along with 3 other fighters, through the center of the room, introduced to the guests as champions of the day. Some reach out to touch your arm, testing muscle, commenting on scars as though you were a prize animal. A woman with rings on every finger presses a grape to your lips and laughs when you hesitate. A senator, his toga stained with wine, asks you if killing gets easier with time. You answer only with silence. He does not seem to mind. You are ordered to eat, and you do, slowly, carefully, as much to fill your empty belly as to remind yourself you are still alive. The taste is overwhelming after months of gruel and stale bread. You wonder, fleetingly, if Felix would even believe it. At the height of the feast, the host calls for entertainment. You and the other gladiators are made to stage a mock battle in the garden, beneath the stars and the watchful eyes of marble gods. Swords are dulled, shields heavy, but the movements are real enough. Each blow earns applause or laughter, sometimes a wager, sometimes an insult. You move through the motions, mind half absent, wondering if any of these men and women ever consider what it is to be on the wrong end of a blade, to bleed for applause. After the spectacle, you are offered wine thick, sweet, dizzying. You drink enough to soften the edge of your fear, but not enough to dull your senses. The host's daughter, bored and bold, slips you a fig and asks if the rumors are true. Are gladiators truly forbidden to love? You tell her, with a small, bitter smile, that gladiators are forbidden many things, but Rome rarely enforces its own rules. Later, as the feast winds down, you and the others are escorted back to the Ludus. The city is quieter now, the marble streets shining in the moonlight, but you catch glimpses of other slaves, soldiers, and courtesans lingering in shadowed doorways. For a moment, the world above seems as dangerous as the arena. Back in your cell, Felix waits. He grins when he sees your stained tunic and the half-loaf you managed to hide beneath your belt. "A feast indeed," he says, tearing off a piece. "Maybe tomorrow I'll break my leg, just for the food." You laugh, the first real laughter in weeks. But when the room falls silent, you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, the sounds and scents of the feast still echoing in your mind. You wonder what it would be like to belong somewhere, to wake up and choose your own life. You wonder how many of the men beside you will still be breathing when the sun rises. The city sleeps, but below, in the stone belly of Rome, the true gods of blood and sand prepare for another day. And you, survivor, slave, champion, and pawn, wait for the horn to sound once more. Sleep is a fragile gift in the Ludus, and you are rarely allowed to hold it for long. The hours after the feast blur in and out, snatches of dreams, the faint taste of stolen bread, Felix's low murmurs as he replays the day's violence. Sometimes you wonder if any of this is real. Are you truly here, breathing the heavy air, feeling every ache and throb, or have you died already, and this is the afterlife promised to men who die in chains? Morning comes before you are ready. A trumpet blares somewhere above, sharp as a sword's edge, and the guards arrive, unlocking cells with the grinding clatter that wakes even the deadest sleeper. Felix groans, eyes swollen, arms stiff from yesterday's blow. He tries to make a joke, but his voice is little more than a whisper. Cassian appears, eyes narrow, already hoarse from barking orders at the newest recruits. He moves through the cell, examining each man. Some he nods at, ready for the sand. Others he waves away, too broken, maybe next time. He pauses at you and Felix. His eyes soften just for a second. Heal, both of you. Rome needs you more alive than dead. For now. You watch as the guards drag away a man who cannot walk without help. He does not protest. His face is blank, a shell emptied of hope. There is no space for mercy in this world. Only the briefest pauses between suffering. Training begins as always, but today Cassian is less brutal. He divides the cohort half to drills, half to rest and recovery. You and Felix are sent to the yard but spared the worst of the exercises. Instead, Cassian takes you aside and has you oil your weapons, polish your battered armor, tend to the horses in the small stables behind the training ground. It's hard work, but easier than bruises. You watch Felix help a new recruit, a boy barely old enough to shave, strap on his arm guard and teach him how to grip a sword. For a moment, you remember your brother, the games you used to play with sticks in the field, a memory sharp as broken glass. At midday, you are called to the medicus. He checks your ribs, prods at your old wounds, nods in satisfaction. "You'll live," he says, as if that is a rare and precious thing. He rubs a bitter salve into your shoulder and ties it with clean linen. "Be glad you have friends," he adds quietly. "Some here die before they ever see the arena." The afternoon sun beats down, hot and merciless, as Cassian gathers the group in a patch of shade. He speaks of tomorrow's games, who will fight, who will be held back, who might face the wild beasts instead of men. The silence after this announcement is heavy, broken only by the distant cries of a lion being teased in its cage. Cassian glances at you. "Not your turn yet. You and Felix rest, eat, watch. Learn the ways of the animals. Sometimes the only way to survive is to be less interesting than the man beside you." The rest of the day passes in a blur. You patch gear, trade stories with the others, listen to rumors from new arrivals. That the emperor's favorite gladiator died yesterday. That a senator's son has bought a seat beside the arena. That some games are fixed before they ever begin. You learn to listen without comment. In the Ludus, careless words can travel far. That evening, Cassian allows the men to gather in a quiet corner for a game of dice. A few rounds of whispered song. Someone smuggles in a heel of cheese, sharp and salty, and for a moment, laughter breaks out. A strange, sudden thing, as bright as a coin dropped in water. Felix joins in, rolling the dice, winning a crust of bread and immediately sharing it with the boy he trained earlier. When the moon is high, Cassian makes his rounds, checking each man, asking if they have any last requests should their luck fail tomorrow. One man wants a letter sent to his mother. Another begs for a priest. Most just want a little more bread or a cup of wine to dull the fear. Cashin promises what he can, and when he leaves, you hear him muttering prayers under his breath. Prayers for the dead and those not yet dead. As the others drift to sleep, you find yourself awake, staring at the dark stone above, the distant flicker of a torch on the far wall. Felix whispers in the gloom, "Did you ever think about running? About escaping this place?" You let the silence stretch before answering. Every day, every time the sun rises. But Rome is everywhere, and there's nowhere to go. Felix sighs. Some say there's a ship waiting at Ostia, for any man bold enough to make it that far. You close your eyes. That's a dream for another life. He is quiet for a long time, then says, "If we make it through this, let's find that ship." You promise, knowing even as you do that promises mean little under Rome's gaze. A sudden noise breaks the stillness. A clang of iron, a muffled shout, the thud of running feet. You sit up, heart pounding. Cashin appears in the doorway, face grave. "Trouble in the lower cells," he mutters. "Stay here. Keep quiet." He vanishes down the hall, torch held high. Whispers spread through the dark. Someone tried to escape, cut a guard, made for the sewers beneath the ludus. A foolish plan, but desperation breeds foolishness. Minutes drag by, tense as drawn wire. The shouting dies down, replaced by the heavy silence of defeat. Cashin returns, blood splashed on his tunic. He says nothing, but you see the exhaustion in his eyes. Someone will pay for tonight's defiance, you are sure. Rome demands order. You and Felix settle back into your straw, bodies close for warmth. The cell is alive with tension, but sleep comes eventually, heavy and full of nightmares. Running through endless tunnels, chased by faceless men, the weight of chains dragging at your limbs. Dawn breaks cold and gray. The guards are harsher, the mood tense. Cashin is nowhere to be seen. The Lanista himself appears, flanked by two burly guards, eyes hard. "There will be no training today," he announces. "Today, you learn what happens to those who break Rome's rules." He orders the entire cohort to the yard, where a makeshift scaffold has been built. Two men, one a thief, the other the would-be escapee, are dragged forward, forced to kneel. The crowd of fighters stands in silence as the Lanista lectures on loyalty, on fear, on the price of rebellion. Then, without further ceremony, the thief is whipped until he collapses. The escapee is hanged, his feet twitching in the dust, face purple, eyes bulging. No one looks away. This is not just punishment. It is a warning written in flesh and blood. Afterwards, you are sent back to the cells, but the atmosphere is changed. Even the bravest men are quiet, haunted. Felix says nothing all day, his eyes fixed on the wall. That night, as you lie awake, you realize the rules have shifted. Rome is always watching, always waiting. Survival now means more than fighting well. It means blending in, keeping secrets, knowing when to risk and when to kneel. But in the silence, you remember Felix's promise. The ship, the sea, the faint hope of escape. You cling to it, however fragile, as the darkness settles in. The games are coming. The crowd will hunger for blood. But somewhere you tell yourself, there is a dawn that belongs only to you. A dawn not written in chains or sand. And so, in the belly of Rome, you wait for your next chance to live or die on your own terms. The day after the execution, the air in the ludus is razor thin. Each man breathes in fear, exhales calculation. Rome's warning hangs over you all like a drawn sword. The corpse of the failed escapee has vanished, but the memory of his purple face, the grotesque arch of his feet, lingers in the corners of every dream. No one asks where Cashin is, but everyone wonders. Rumor says he argued with the Lanista after the hanging, his voice echoing through stone and iron before he disappeared. You go through the rituals of the day on numb autopilot. The guards wake you before sunrise, marching you through the baths, forcing you to scrub away every hint of yesterday's weakness. Water scalds your wounds. A slave offers you a scrap of soap and eyes empty of judgment. You stare at your reflection in the pool. A survivor, but at what cost? Training resumes, but now everything is sharper, more dangerous. The instructors shout louder, their wooden swords striking with less restraint. Men are paired not by skill but by grudge. The smallest errors draw blood. The smallest hesitations become new bruises. The medicus is busy from the moment the drills begin. Felix is sullen, barely speaking, going through the motions with a grin set to his jaw. Between sword drills, he pulls you aside, voice low. "Did you see his face?" He whispers, meaning the hanged man. "I can't shake it. I can't stop seeing it." You want to comfort him, to tell him that time will dull the horror. But you know that's a lie. Rome carves its lessons deep. At midday, the lanista gathers everyone in the yard. His robe is fresh, his hair oiled and shining, as if violence had never brushed against him. He announces the next games. A spectacle for a visiting senator whose favor could double his profits. The city expects a show, he declares, scanning the faces for a reaction. And Rome will have it. Blood, courage, surprise. Those who perform well may earn reward. Or a chance at the emperor's prize. The emperor's prize, a rumor more than a hope. Freedom, gold. A knight in the arms of Rome's nobility. A name sung in the streets. Some believe it exists. Most do not. But even the ghost of it is enough to make men stand taller, eyes burning with the last embers of pride. You are not chosen for the first day's fights. Felix is. He tries to act brave, but you see the quiver in his hands as he straps on his battered armor. "If I don't come back," he murmurs. "Remember the ship in Ostia." You squeeze his shoulder. "Just survive. That's enough." The rest of the cohort is herded into a side corridor that overlooks the arena through thin, barred slits in the wall. It's here that you witness the spectacle as the crowd sees it, stripped of glamour, all sweat and agony. The sand is raked smooth, golden in the late morning light. The heralds strut, their voices polished, announcing names that mean nothing and everything. You watch Felix emerge, face pale but set, flanked by a veteran with a serpent tattooed across his chest and a third man you do not know. A giant, rumored to be from the frontiers near the Rhine. The horn blares. The gates swing wide. The fight is chaos from the first heartbeat. Sand flies, metal flashes, men grunt and shout. The crowd's hunger for violence surging and crashing like the sea. Felix is quick, darting and feinting, but the veteran is ruthless, pressing every advantage. The giant swings a hammer so heavy it seems to bend the air itself. You yell encouragement you know he cannot hear. Every blow that lands on Felix lands on your own skin. Sweat beads your brow. Your hands clench around invisible weapons. For a moment, hope glimmers. Felix dodges the giant's hammer and lands a solid strike to the veteran's thigh. But the veteran is a killer. With a snarl, he hurls sand in Felix's eyes and rams his shield into his chest, sending him sprawling. The crowd screams for blood. The horn blares again, mercy or death. The emperor is not present, but the senator is, rising from his shaded seat to raise a single jeweled hand. The thumb turns sideways. Mercy. The crowd boos, but Felix is spared. Relief collapses your body. You sag against the wall, barely aware of the chaos continuing below. After the bout, Felix is dragged back to the cells, dazed, bleeding from a dozen small wounds, but alive. He laughs wild and shaky. "That's enough glory for a lifetime," he wheezes. You clean his cuts, steady his shaking hands. "Rest. You did well." Over the next days, the games grind on. The city swells with travelers. Rumors of plague drift through the markets. Bodies stacked outside the gates. Temple bells ringing at dusk for the dead. The senators toast each other at feasts, betting on who will die next. The lanista grows richer. The slaves grow thinner. But the games continue, as inevitable as sunrise. You train, you watch, you learn. You mark the guards who are lazy, the slaves who gossip, the moments when the gates are left unlocked just a second too long. Felix grows stronger, the bruises fading, the haunted look retreating from his eyes. The boy he once taught to hold a sword is gone. Now a lean, wary man, scars blooming on his arms like flowers. One night, as a storm lashes the city, you and Felix sit beneath your thin blanket, trading memories of home. Yours a farm, his a forge, both lost to the world outside. He asks if you still dream of escape. Every night, you reply. He nods, a smile ghosting across his lips. Good. Promise me something. If you get out before me, run. Don't look back. You promise, knowing that in Rome, promises are the last things left to steal. A week passes. The day before the senator's grand spectacle arrives. The ludus is in uproar. Armor polished, weapons sharpened. Men drilled until their hands bleed. The lanista paces the halls, inspecting every detail, rage simmering just beneath his perfume. Cassian returns at dawn, battered but unbroken. He looks each man in the eye, says nothing, but his presence steadies you all. When he finds you and Felix, he pauses, squeezes your shoulders in turn. Watch each other's backs, he says softly. Rome is hungry. That night, sleep is impossible. The whole city vibrates with anticipation. You hear drums in the streets, laughter, the braying of donkeys, the distant howls of caged beasts. Somewhere above, the senators dine, toasting death and fortune. Felix lies awake beside you, breathing slow and even. For a moment, you allow yourself the foolish hope that maybe, just maybe, you'll both see the ship at Ostia. Morning comes, pale and pitiless. The horn sounds. Rome waits. The dawn of the senator's grand spectacle breaks with the thunder of distant drums and the cawing of black birds circling the rooftops of Rome. From your cell, you can hear the city waking. Vendors calling out bread and olives in the street, children racing after dogs, the clatter of carts over the stones. All of it a world apart from yours, but the sound is a reminder. Beyond these walls, life continues, and today the entire city's eyes will turn toward the arena. Cassian wakes you with a firm hand on your shoulder. His face is grim, mouth a hard line. Up. Time to earn your place. Felix is already awake, sitting on his cot, staring into space, lips moving in a silent prayer to gods old and new. You wonder if the gods of Rome ever answer the prayers of slaves and gladiators. If they do, perhaps today they'll listen. The guards are in a hurry. You are marched to the baths, where the water is cold, the stone floors slick with yesterday's blood. No one speaks as you wash. Each man is locked in his own universe of fear and hope. The medicus arrives to check your wounds, rubbing ointment into your arms, nodding at your steady pulse. Stay alive if you can, he says quietly. You're worth more to the lanista breathing than bled dry. After the baths, you are led to the armory. Cassian hands you your gear. Battered helmet, iron greaves, the sword with your initials carved small into the hilt. You know what to do, he says. Remember what you've learned. He checks your armor himself, tightening the straps, adjusting the shield. Don't let them back you into the wall. Keep your eyes up, and trust your feet. Felix is next. Cassian wraps his hand, places a coin in his palm. A good luck charm, he says, from a time before Rome swallowed the world. Felix squeezes your hand. If I fall, you run, he whispers. If you fall, I run. Either way, one of us gets free. The guards march you into a small chamber beneath the arena, the air heavy with the scent of iron and old sweat. Here, the noise of the crowd seeps through the stone like thunder. The other gladiators wait, faces pale, some stoic, some trembling. The giant from the Rhine sits on a bench, hands folded, lips moving in his native tongue. Nearby, a pair of twins joke in Greek, too loudly, trying to drown out their terror. A horn sounds. The gates above you begin to rumble open. Cassian lines you up with military precision. Walk tall, he says, and remember, Rome worships the brave, not the coward. Die well if you must. The doors open, flooding the chamber with light and sound. You are blinded, disoriented. For a heartbeat, you hesitate. Felix's hand on your shoulder steadies you. You step out into the arena. The sun is a blazing eye overhead. The stands are packed, thousands of faces, 100 colors, banners snapping in the wind. The senator sits in the imperial box, flanked by courtesans and guards. His robe brilliant purple, a gold laurel shining in his hair. He raises his goblet in salute. The lanista stands at the edge of the sand, arms raised. "People of Rome," he cries, "today your thirst will be quenched. Today, courage and blood will decide fate." The crowd roars in response, a sound that rattles your bones. You move into formation, shoulder to shoulder with Felix and the others. The sand is hot beneath your feet, already stained with yesterday's deaths. You glance up, searching for an omen, a bird, a cloud, anything. All you see is blue sky and merciless sun. The herald announces the names of the fighters, one by one. Some receive cheers, others jeers. When your name is called, a few voices shout in recognition. Others are silent. You feel the eyes of the senator on you, weighing your worth, your life, your death. Then the gates at the far end open and the enemy emerges. Men as desperate as you, armed and armored, eyes wide with terror or gleaming with rage. Some are strangers. Some you have seen in the training yards, men bought or borrowed for this single day's entertainment. There is a moment of silence, the breath before the storm. The horn blares. The battle erupts. It is chaos. Swords clash, shields splinter, men shout and scream. Blood sprays across the sand. You lose sight of Felix in the first rush, forced to parry a wild blow from a hulking Thracian with a broken nose. The air is thick with dust and the copper tang of blood. You remember Cassion's words. Keep moving, trust your feet. You sidestep a spear, slam your shield into another fighter's face. Pain flashes in your arm as a sword grazes your bicep. The crowd roars for more. Somewhere in the swirl, you catch a glimpse of Felix, still standing, dueling a Greek with a red-plumed helmet. Their swords ring out, bright and deadly. Time distorts. Seconds become eternities, then vanish. Your arms ache, sweat burns your eyes. You stumble, nearly tripping over a fallen man. His mouth gaping, eyes already empty. You force yourself up, swinging blindly, the world a blur of noise and fury. You kill a man without knowing how. Your sword slides between his ribs. Warm blood washes your hand. He collapses, taking a piece of you with him. There is no time to grieve. Another fighter lunges, desperate, wild. You duck, roll, come up swinging. The rhythm of the fight takes over, all thought gone. Only survival remains. At some point, you hear your name. Felix, bleeding, face streaked with dust, has his back to a broken shield. The Greek is advancing. You shout, charge, hurl your sword, catch the Greek in the side. He drops. Felix gasps for air, eyes wild with relief. The battle thins. Men fall. The sand is red, churned into mud. The crowd is on its feet, screaming for a finish. You stagger to Felix, help him to his feet. You are both covered in blood, shaking, but alive. The horn blares again, cease. The survivors gather in the center, facing the senator. He stands, lifts his hand. Bravery, he shouts, and mercy. Rome is satisfied for now. The crowd erupts. You and Felix are herded from the sand, every step in agony, but alive. Cassion waits at the tunnel entrance, eyes shining with pride and grief. He claps you both on the shoulder. Well done, he says, voice rough. Rest now. You've earned it. Back in the cells, the world narrows to pain and relief. The medicus cleans your wounds, stitches a cut on Felix's cheek. Water tastes like wine. Bread is sweet as honey. You survived. But as night falls, you cannot sleep. You stare at the ceiling, listening to the city celebrate above you. Fireworks, laughter, music. For a moment, you allow yourself to hope. Tomorrow is not promised. But tonight, you are alive, and that is enough. Felix whispers, voice raw, "We made it, brother." You squeeze his hand, exhausted. For the first time, you truly believe that maybe someday the ship at Ostia could be more than a dream. But for now, you drift into uneasy sleep, the memory of the sand and the roar of the crowd etched into your bones. Night settles thick and heavy over the ludus, but sleep does not come easy for any man who survived the sand. Even with victory still ringing in your ears, you lie awake, every muscle vibrating with the memory of violence. The wounds on your arms throb, the cuts on your knuckles sting. The shouts of the crowd echo in the hollow between your heartbeats. Sometimes a cheer, sometimes a scream. You taste iron every time you swallow. Felix lies beside you, silent but restless. The torchlight flickers along the stone, painting his face with shifting shadows. He picks at the bandages on his arm, then whispers, "Did you see the senator's eyes? Like he was watching dogs fight, not men." You nod. Words seem small compared to what you both feel. The rest of the cohort is battered, limping but alive. Most of them. 2 cots are empty. The giant from the Rhine did not return. One of the twins is gone. The other sits hunched, eyes vacant, mumbling prayers in broken Greek. Cashin moves among the survivors, tending wounds with calloused hands, offering silent comfort. He does not smile, not tonight. He simply makes sure the living do not bleed out before morning. When the guards finally lock the cells, the silence grows thick enough to choke on. Rome is celebrating. Drums and laughter float over the walls, wild with the joy of blood well spent. But down here, beneath the stones, the mood is heavy. No one sings. No one jokes. Survival tastes bitter when bought with the deaths of friends. Before dawn, the medicus returns. He checks each man, replacing bloody bandages, forcing you to drink bitter draughts to dull the pain. "You'll have scars," he mutters, dabbing a deep cut on your shoulder. "But scars are proof you lived." You try to thank him, but your tongue is thick. Felix manages a laugh, more a bark than joy. "If scars are proof, we'll be emperors by spring." Breakfast is meager, stale bread, thin gruel, a few figs so soft they collapse in your fingers. The lanista comes to inspect his property. He is all smiles for the winners, but his eyes slide coldly over the wounded and the dead. "Well done," he says. "Rome is pleased. Perhaps a few of you will see another summer." His gaze lingers on you and Felix. "The senator asked for your names. That is unusual. Be proud, but do not be foolish. Rome is quick to forget." He leaves, trailing the scent of perfume and power. The silence he leaves behind feels heavier than before. Training is suspended that day. Instead, you are set to cleaning weapons, repairing armor, scrubbing blood from the sand that fills every crack in the stone. Felix works quietly, his movements stiff. The Greek twin refuses to leave his cot. Cashin lets him be, knowing some wounds will never heal. As the day stretches on, new rumors bubble through the cohort. A shipment of new slaves is expected. Thracians, said to be fierce, undefeated in the wild. One of the older gladiators, Marcus, leans in close as you scrape a blade clean. "Watch the new arrivals," he murmurs. "Men who have nothing left to lose are the most dangerous. They change the order, make alliances, start fights. Sometimes they start revolts." You nod, thinking of the failed escape, the hangings. "Rome always wins," you reply. Marcus shrugs. "Not always, just often enough." Felix spends the afternoon talking quietly with Cashin, his voice too low to hear. When he returns, his eyes are clearer, but his jaw is set. He says the senator might buy us, or have us fight in a private match. Could mean freedom or death. Depends on his mood. You shake your head. "I'd rather risk the games than trust a senator's mercy." Felix grins, but there's no humor in it. In Rome, mercy's just another way to keep men guessing. That night, a storm rolls over the city, thunder shaking the walls. Water leaks through the cracks in the ceiling, dripping into buckets set beneath the beds. The air is heavy, ripe with the scent of sweat, blood, and wet stone. Sleep is fitful, dreams full of sand and screams, the press of bodies and the endless, endless roar. When morning comes, the guards are in a foul mood. One of the new slaves fought back, bit a man's ear off in the yard. The offender is dragged past your cell, face bloodied, eyes defiant. The lanista follows, issuing orders for double chains, no food for 3 days. The message is clear. Rebellion is met with hunger and iron. You and Felix share a look. The cohort is restless. The Greek twin finally rises, eyes hollow. Marcus is missing. Rumor says he's in the punishment cells for fighting with a guard. Cassian says nothing, but he spends more time watching the exits, counting keys, marking the guards who drink too much wine. At midday, a new batch of weapons arrives, freshly forged, heavier, sharper than the old ones. Cassian calls the men together, dividing the blades, instructing each to test his grip, memorize the balance. A man who knows his weapon is halfway to survival, he says. You feel the heft of your new sword heavier, but solid, the edge keen. Felix flips his between his fingers, testing for weakness. That afternoon, training resumes. The new slaves are thrown into the sand, forced to fight each other while the rest of you watch. They are wild, desperate, some skilled, some not. The crowd of guards and trainers shout encouragement, laughing when the losers fall. Cassian stands apart, watching with narrowed eyes. Afterwards, you and Felix are called to the Lanista's chamber. The room is lavish, thick carpets, golden lamps, painted frescoes of past champions. The Lanista greets you with false warmth, pouring wine you dare not refuse. You have impressed the senator, he says. And me. There is talk of a special match, a spectacle for men of wealth and power. Win, and you may earn your freedom. Lose, and... He shrugs. He studies you both, eyes cold and calculating. I do not trust fate, but I trust ambition. If you want to live, if you want to leave this place, you will fight as if the gods themselves are watching. You and Felix nod. There is nothing else to say. As you leave, Cassian waits in the corridor. He leans close, voice barely a breath. Careful with the Lanista. His promises are as sharp as his knives. Felix grins. A knife I can see is better than one in my back. Cassian nods, but his eyes are sad. That night, the cohort gathers in the cell, sharing what little food remains. The new arrivals are wary, sticking together, speaking in a tongue you do not know. Marcus returns, face bruised, but unbroken. He pulls you aside. There is talk of escape, he whispers. Not tonight, but soon. Will you help? You hesitate, thinking of the gallows, the broken men. But Felix nods before you can answer. If we have a chance, we take it. The men whisper late into the night, plotting, dreaming. Some want only to run. Others want revenge. A few, like you, just want to see the sea again, to breathe free air. Outside, Rome sleeps, unaware that beneath its feet, the ground is shifting. You lie awake, listening to the rain, the slow breathing of men with nothing left but hope. Tomorrow you will fight again, maybe for your life, maybe for your freedom. You do not know. All you know is that you are not alone, and that in the darkness, even a whisper can become a roar. The storm breaks, but the city feels heavier, wet stones steaming in the first rays of sun, the alleys glistening with last night's downpour. In the Ludus, the mood has shifted. Something sharp and nervous twists through the cohort. Men who once laughed at nothing now flinch at sudden noises. There are more guards, and the ones you know are replaced by strangers with crueler eyes and heavier hands. Training resumes at sunrise. The sand in the yard is darker, still sodden with rain and, here and there, with old blood. The new Thracian slaves train apart from the rest. They do not speak Latin or Greek, and their eyes hold the cold, distant look of men who know they will never see home again. Cassian, ever the watcher, notes which ones seem boldest, which ones nurse grudges, which ones look away from every fight. If you want allies, you must earn their trust, he murmurs as you bandage Felix's wrist. Or at least their fear. Felix is quieter these days. He spends more time staring into the fire at night, lips moving in silent prayers, as if trying to bargain with the gods or himself. You try to draw him back with talk of escape and freedom, of ships in Ostia and sun on the open water. Some nights he joins you, weaving stories out of nothing. Other nights he just shakes his head. Hope is a heavy thing, he says, voice hoarse. Some days, I can't lift it. The food is worse now. The bread is hard enough to break teeth. The stew tastes of bones and bitter greens. The older men mutter about the senator's games and the new batch of weapons. He's preparing something, Marcus says, voice low. He wouldn't waste coin unless he planned a feast of blood. Others nod, eyes wide in the torchlight. Word spreads that 2 more men have vanished. One, a quiet Gaul who trained with the new arrivals. The other, a Roman thief who had survived more games than anyone could remember. No one speaks their names aloud, but every man in the cohort feels the weight of their absence. They make us ghosts before we're even dead, Cassian growls. In Rome, a slave is not even a memory. One morning, you are called to the Lanista's office. Felix and Cassian accompany you, their faces set in masks of defiance. The Lanista is waiting, dressed in a tunic dyed purple, a gold ring gleaming on each finger. He sits behind a marble table, surrounded by scrolls, wine cups, and the ever-present smell of incense. Sit, he commands, and you obey. The senator has made his choice. There will be a private contest. Exclusive, expensive, attended by men whose favor can change your life forever. His voice drips with promise, but his eyes remain hard. You 3 will fight. The winners will be rewarded. The losers, well, the city is hungry for spectacle. Felix tenses, but Cassian lays a hand on his shoulder. What are the rules? Cassian asks. The Lanista smiles, wolfish. There are no rules, only survival. The senator wants blood, but also bravery. Give him both, and you may live to see another dawn. He dismisses you with a flick of his hand. As you rise, he adds, and remember, I can sell your names as easily as your flesh. Disappoint me, and I will see to it that your bones rot in the dust, unmarked and unmourned. Back in the cells, the talk turns dark. Some men want to run, others to fight. Marcus approaches you, eyes glittering with desperation. Tonight, he whispers. We try. If we fail, we're dead anyway. You weigh the risk. The guards are thick, the walls high, but the mood is right. A spark could turn the whole place to flame. You and Felix nod, but Cassian is hesitant. It's not enough to want freedom, he says. You must be ready to die for it. Are you? Felix answers before you can. We've been dying by inches for Rome since the day we arrived. I'd rather choose my end. As dusk falls, the air inside the ludus crackles with tension. You eat in silence, the new Thracians eyeing the old cohort with suspicion and curiosity. A small circle forms after dark. Marcus, Felix, you, Cassian, and 2 of the Thracians who speak enough Greek to bargain. The plan is whispered, each man assigned a task. Create a diversion, seize a guard's keys, open the main gate. But no plan survives first contact with Rome. As midnight approaches, you hear footsteps. Too many, too fast. The guards have been doubled again. Someone must have talked, or perhaps the Lanista is simply more clever than he appears. The attempted escape dies in its cradle, hope crushed under the heel of Rome. Instead, you sit in the dark, tension roiling, every muscle braced for a fight that never comes. Felix grinds his teeth, fury simmering in his eyes. Cassian sighs, defeat written in every line of his face. Next time, Marcus says, but no one truly believes there will be a next time. The next morning, punishment is swift. The guards pull Marcus from his cot, drag him into the yard. No one sees what happens, but the screams echo long after dawn. When he returns, he can barely walk, his face swollen, lips split, one eye blood red. They want us afraid, he mutters, collapsing onto his cot. But they should be afraid of us. Training resumes, more brutal than ever. The new weapons are heavier, the drills longer. The Thracians begin to blend with the rest, their suspicion replaced by something colder. Shared purpose. At night, men gather in small groups, whispering in 6 languages. Trust is hard, but desperation makes quick alliances. One evening, Cassian gathers the old cohort. Listen, he says, we cannot fight Rome head-on, but we can win small battles. Watch the guards. Mark their habits. Look for cracks in the wall, real or imagined. And remember, no man here is truly alone unless he chooses to be. You feel the truth of his words deep in your bones. Even in the heart of Rome, in the belly of the beast, you are not powerless. You are not just a slave. You are not only the sand beneath a senator's sandal. Felix finds you before lights out, voice steady for the first time in days. Whatever comes, we face it together. Brothers, not by blood, but by choice. You nod, feeling the weight of his hand on your shoulder. A bond forged in blood and fire, stronger than chains. That night, as you drift toward uneasy sleep, you listen to the city's heartbeat above you. Horses, laughter, distant music, the muted howl of dogs. The arena awaits, hungry for your blood. But for the first time, you feel a current running through the darkness. A promise that the story is not yet finished, that even in Rome, hope can be a weapon. Tomorrow, the games resume. The senator will watch. The city will judge. But tonight, for a few quiet hours, you remember who you are. And you dream not of freedom, but of victory. The city awakes with a fever. The air feels electric, nervous, sharp, as if Rome itself is holding its breath. Today, the senator's private games are all anyone talks about. Market women whisper of fortunes won and lost on the blood of men. The baker doubles his price, knowing the crowd will be large. Even the beggars gather near the arena, hoping to scavenge coins or crusts from the excited throngs. Inside the ludus, the air is tense as a drawn bowstring. Cashin wakes you before sunrise, his face older than usual. The day has come, he says simply. You rise, every muscle sore from yesterday's drills, but adrenaline pushes away the pain. Felix stands by his cot, eyes wide, jaw tight. The other men, Gauls, Greeks, Romans, Thracians, move with silent purpose, sharpening blades, testing armor, tying tokens of luck around their wrists. Before you eat, the lanista makes his rounds. He carries a list of names, reading them aloud with ceremony. Yours is there. So is Felix's. Cashin nods, unfazed. Some men cross themselves or mutter prayers. Others just stare into the distance, already half gone. Breakfast is a blur. The taste of food hardly registers. A slave boy hands you a leather strap. For luck, he says. My father wore it when he fought at Actium. You tie it around your wrist, feeling superstition's small comfort. Afterward, you march to the baths. Steam rises in thick columns, condensing on the scarred backs and shoulders of men who know what it is to be prey. You scrub yourself clean as best you can. A medic checks your wounds, pressing ointment into cuts. He whispers, "Don't die easy." It pleases the crowd to see a man struggle. His fingers linger, perhaps an old soldier, perhaps a friend to the doomed. When you leave the baths, the guards are waiting. They bind your wrists with braided cords. Ceremony for the senator's guests, nothing more. You are paraded through a corridor lined with fresh torches, the smoke burning your eyes. At the end, the doors swing wide, and the sun assaults your senses. The arena is smaller than the Colosseum, but its marble seats are packed with the rich, the powerful, the corrupt. Faces peer down from gilded boxes, fanning themselves in the morning heat. You glimpse the senator. White robes, golden laurel, eyes like knives. Around him sit men who run the city, praetors, generals, bankers. Among them, you spot a young woman, face hidden behind a painted mask, but her gaze meets yours and lingers. The announcer's voice booms. Today, Rome feasts on valor. By decree of the Senate and with the blessing of the gods, let the games begin. The crowd erupts. Your heart pounds. Felix stands at your side, jaw clenched, lips moving in prayer. The first contest is ritualized, a display of skill, not death. You and Felix are matched against two Thracians wielding curved Sicca blades. The fight is fast, brutal. Dust flies. The swords flash in the sun. You parry, dodge, feint. Felix's shield rings as iron bites it. You work as one, recalling endless hours of Cashin's drills. The senator's box is silent, watching, judging. You find an opening, lunge, twist, drive your shoulder into your foe. He stumbles and Felix sweeps his legs. The crowd roars. You press the advantage. The fight ends with the Thracians yielding, one spitting blood, the other groaning on the sand. Cheers and coins rain down from the stands. But there is little time to savor it. You are marched back beneath the arena, breath heaving, arms trembling from adrenaline and effort. Cashin meets you, eyes shining with pride. Good, he says. You are seen. They will remember you now, but be careful. Fame in Rome is as dangerous as failure. Other matches follow. You wait, nerves scraping raw. You hear the screams of the crowd, the wet slap of steel on flesh. A wounded man is carried past, groaning, his tunic black with blood. The medicus rushes to him, but you know, by his glassy stare, that he is lost. At midday you are summoned again. This time, you and Felix are pitted against a pair of seasoned veterans. Men who've killed more times than they can count. The Lanista whispers, do not trust the rules. They may change. Trust only each other. The gate lifts. Sunlight, heat, noise. You are pushed onto the sand. The veterans circle, grinning. Their armor is heavier, shields scarred. One winks at you, lips curling in contempt. Ready to die, boy? You grit your teeth, raising your shield. The fight is longer, crueler. The veterans use every dirty trick. Sand in the eyes, kicks to the knees, blows to the fingers. But you and Felix fight as brothers. When you fall, he lifts you. When he falters, you cover him. The crowd screams for blood, but you refuse to give in. At last, you find your moment. Felix ducks a killing stroke, slams his helmet into his foe's nose. The man reels, dropping his sword. You charge, knocking the second man down. Blood sprays, hot and sudden. You pin him, blade at his throat. Silence. The senator stands, lifting his hand. The crowd hushes. He signals with 2 fingers, mercy. You and Felix step back, swords lowered. The veterans are hauled away, defeated but spared. You're marched from the arena, every muscle trembling. Cashin meets you again, arms outstretched. You have given them a story, he whispers. And in Rome, stories are power. The rest of the day blurs. More fights, more blood. You watch a Gaul's head split open by a mace. You see a Greek strangled by his own helmet straps. You see fear, courage, madness, and sometimes mercy. When dusk falls, the senator summons you and Felix to his box. You are washed, perfumed, given new tunics, like prize animals paraded for their owners. The senator is younger up close, with clever eyes and soft hands. He smiles, but the smile never touches his eyes. You fought well. Rome remembers its champions. He sips wine, gestures to the masked woman. Tell me, slave, do you wish for freedom? You hesitate. Felix squeezes your arm. Yes, Dominus. The senator laughs. We shall see. Rome is a fickle master. He waves you away, already bored. Back in your cell, you sit in silence, the weight of the day crushing you. Cashin brings bread and water, pats your shoulder. Sleep if you can. Tomorrow, everything changes. Felix whispers in the dark. Do you believe him? About freedom. You close your eyes. Tonight, I'll believe anything. The city outside still sings, but inside the ludus, hope is a dangerous thing. Sharp as a sword, bright as lightning, and gone in an instant. Darkness seeps through the barred windows, thicker than wine, heavier than chains. The sand has been swept from your skin, but not from your mind. Every muscle aches, a map of bruises and half-healed cuts. Felix lies on the next cot, chest rising and falling, his eyes open and blank, staring at a crack in the ceiling as if he might find the gods hidden there. Around you, the cohort is quieter than you have ever known it. Men nurse wounds in silence. The victors from earlier matches huddle in the corners, eyes wide, hands trembling as adrenaline drains away, replaced by exhaustion and something like awe. Others sleep, their bodies giving in to fatigue, but even their dreams sound like struggles. Moans, whispers, fists clenching the air. Cashin paces the small chamber, a restless lion, head bowed, jaw set. He checks wounds, distributes water, then pauses beside you. You lived, he says, soft but urgent. And Rome saw it. But be careful. Survival makes you a target as much as a hero. You nod, but inside you feel as hollow as a broken amphora. The senator's words echo. Do you wish for freedom? Ringing false yet dangerous. You know too well that in Rome, promises weigh less than a feather on a judge's scale. Yet still, hope pricks you awake, refusing to be crushed. Even now, Felix finally speaks. I saw my death today. It looked just like me. Only, he didn't get up. You reach out, fingers brushing his shoulder. A silent pact. We're not done yet, you say. The hours pass slow and sticky, broken only by the arrival of a kitchen slave bearing wine. Thinner than blood, but welcome. The men drink in sips, passing the cup, sharing a memory or a joke in murmurs. For a moment, the walls feel less close. Someone starts a song, low and off-key, but no one tells him to stop. In the far corner, one of the Thracians sharpens his blade, the rasp of stone on iron steady as a heartbeat. Another man, bandaged from shoulder to hip, scribbles a letter home he'll never send. These small acts, singing, writing, sharpening, are defiance, a way to remember themselves before Rome devours the last of their names. Outside, the city is alive with celebration. Drunken voices drift through the stones, the sharp snap of dice, the high laughter of courtesans, the clatter of wagon wheels on marble. Somewhere a child cries out and is shushed. Somewhere a dog howls and is silenced. Rome devours everything. Joy, pain, hope, life. Cassian sits with you, his back to the wall. They'll want a rematch, he warns. The crowd never tires of blood, and the senator, he likes to play with his toys before he breaks them. Tonight we watch. Tomorrow we listen. You nod, studying the others. Some men clutch their good fortune like a secret amulet, afraid to speak it lest it vanish. Others, less lucky, seem almost at peace, as if accepting their fate has bought them a final measure of rest. You ask Cassian quietly, "Do you believe there's a way out?" He studies the floor, then shrugs. There's always a way. It's just not always where you're looking. The night drags on. The slave who brought the wine returns with a loaf of bread, hard, but real food. He leaves quickly, eyes downcast. But as he goes, he presses something into your hand. A tiny scrap of parchment. A single word scrawled, "Tonight." Your heart skips. You show it to Felix, who blinks, then sits up, alert again. Cassian reads it and frowns. "Too soon after the games," he whispers. But maybe someone's desperate, or maybe it's a test. A hush falls as you pass the message quietly to Marcus, who nods. The old plan rises again. Escape, not through the front, but through the hypogeum, the tunnels below the arena where the beasts are kept and the dead are dragged. It's madness, but what is madness to men with nothing to lose? Each man prepares in his own way. Felix whispers prayers to gods both Roman and foreign. The Thracian tests the point of his blade on his thumb. Marcus rips a strip of linen, wraps it around his arm. Cassian closes his eyes, mutters a list of names, those who escaped, those who failed, those who never tried. As midnight approaches, you watch the shadows for the signal. The guards are fewer tonight, drunk on victory and wine. Somewhere down the hall, a torch flickers 3 times as planned. Cassian stands, voice low but fierce. "If we go together. If we die as men, not as slaves." You move silent as shadows. The cohort slips from their cots, hearts pounding, sweat slick on palms. At the tunnel entrance, a gate hangs open, the lock broken, just as promised. Someone's bought or bribed a guard, or else you are walking into a trap. Too late to turn back. You slip into the darkness, the stench of blood and beasts thick in your nose. The air grows colder, the only light the guttering torches you carry. Every step echoes the beating of your heart. Suddenly, a noise ahead, a shout, the ring of steel. The first guard goes down with a strangled cry. Marcus, bleeding from a cut above his eye, shoves you forward. "Run!" he hisses. You dash through twisting tunnels, breath ragged, Felix at your side, Cashin bringing up the rear. Behind you, chaos explodes, shouts, running feet, the sharp bark of a centurion. The cohort bursts out into open air at the edge of the city, panting, wild-eyed. For a moment, Rome sprawls before you, massive, beautiful, deadly. The moon lights the rooftops. Somewhere, bells ring. Someone has discovered your escape. Split up, Cashin orders. Meet at the Tiber, the old bridge. You and Felix run together, ducking into alleys, dodging torchlight, leaping over fallen carts and startled dogs. The city is a maze of shadows and secrets, but for the first time, the night air tastes sweet, like hope, like freedom, like a story not yet ended. Behind you, the sound of pursuit fades as you vanish into the city's veins. For tonight, you have cheated death. For tonight, you are more than gladiators. You are men. Rome at night is a beast with 1,000 eyes and 1,000 ears. Torchlight glimmers from upper windows. Shouts echo in narrow alleys. Stray dogs scavenge for scraps beside sleeping beggars. It is not the same city as in daylight. The streets, once full of chatter and commerce, become a warren of fear and possibility. You and Felix run. Sandals slap cobblestones slick with the day's rain. You cut through a deserted market, scattering cats and toppling a basket of rotten figs. Behind you, voices, guards, angry and disoriented, bark orders in Latin. Somewhere, a horn sounds. You duck behind a wagon, holding your breath as a patrol passes. Their shadows looming, spears glinting in the moonlight. Felix's breath rasps. This way, he whispers, gesturing toward a row of narrow steps. You climb, two at a time, the stone cold underfoot, lungs burning. At the top, a low wall overlooks the Subura, the wild heart of the city, crowded with insuli, taverns, brothels, the desperate and the invisible. From up here, you see the sprawl of roofs and lanterns, a flickering sea. Somewhere out there, Cashin and the others are running too, each on their own path to the Tiber. The descent is chaos. At one point, you are nearly spotted by a pair of guards dragging a drunk from the gutter. Felix pulls you into the shadows of a ruined portico. Your faces close, both of you shaking. You wait, motionless, counting heartbeats as the soldiers mutter and move on. Above, the moon ducks behind a rag of cloud. You are ghosts, you tell yourself. Not men, not slaves, not prey. The way is not easy. The city is full of perils that have nothing to do with Rome's official keepers of order. Twice you are accosted. Once by a gang of youths who think you easy marks. Another time by a lone man with a knife, his face twisted by hunger. Each time, you show teeth, bare steel, and they melt away into the night, looking for softer prey. You and Felix move as one, reading the map of the city not by streets, but by instinct. Avoiding the wide avenues where patrols are thickest, ducking down alleys where the light barely reaches, cutting through the fish market where the smell covers your scent. Your hands are still shaking from the rush when you reach the Forum Boreum. Here, the night is quieter, almost reverent. Temples loom in the darkness, columns white and ghostly in the moonlight. You pause, catching your breath, hearts pounding. Felix leans against a pillar, sweat beading his brow. Did you ever think, he whispers, that the world could be this big? You shake your head. For so long, your life has been sand and stone, screams and steel. Now every breath tastes of terror and freedom both. Suddenly, a noise, footsteps behind you, soft but purposeful. You spin, blade in hand, only to see Cashin, panting, wild-eyed, a gash bleeding on his arm. We made it, he gasps. Marcus, he's not coming. They caught him. You close your eyes. For a moment, the world narrows to grief and guilt. Cashin puts a hand on your shoulder. No time for mourning. If Marcus fell, he bought us this chance. We reach the river. We vanish. The Tiber is close. You move through the Cloaca Maxima, the great sewer, stench thick enough to turn your stomach. But it is safer than the streets above. Rats scatter before you. The sound of water rushing in the darkness is oddly comforting. A river cannot betray. A stone cannot lie. At the riverbank, You emerge into the open air, breathless. The city is behind you, but its shadow stretches long. The bridge, the old bridge, half collapsed but still spanning the current, waits. There, among the shattered stones, Felix finds a bundle hidden behind a broken column. 3 cloaks, a pouch of coins, and a crust of bread. Someone prepared for this. Cashin grins, a fierce, tired smile. I had a friend once. A thief. Said he owed me a favor. Looks like he paid it. You wrap yourselves in the cloaks, trying to look like any other paupers slinking from the city. The first light of dawn is just beginning to pale the eastern sky. Already, the city behind you is stirring, market calls, temple bells, the never-ending noise of Rome. You cross the bridge, heart in your throat. Halfway across, Felix pauses, his hand trembling. Do you hear that? You listen, behind you, hooves clatter on the stones. Guards. Run! Cashin hisses. You dash the final stretch, slipping down the embankment into a stand of reeds. The river water is shockingly cold as you wade in, waist deep, hiding among the stalks as the patrol passes overhead. The guards pause, looking, torches flickering, but move on. You wait, shivering until silence returns. Felix begins to laugh. A wild, shaking sound, halfway between tears and madness. You join him. Cashin, always the soldier, shakes his head but cannot hide the relief in his eyes. On the far bank, you huddle beneath your cloaks, wringing water from your clothes, sharing the bread and coins. We need a plan, Cashin says. We can't stay here. They'll hunt us. Every road out of the city will be watched. You scan the horizon. The world feels both endless and impossibly small. Felix leans close, voice low. We could go south, blend in with the peasants at the vineyards, work the harvest until the city forgets us. Cashin frowns. Or we head for the coast, find a ship, disappear forever. You think of home, of places you barely remember. You think of Marcus, of the men who never made it this far. Above all, you think of freedom, the sharp taste of it so close you can almost swallow it. But nothing is certain. Cashin tears a strip from his cloak, binds his arm. Whatever we choose it together. A sudden sound, soft, urgent, interrupts you. Out of the darkness steps a figure. The slave boy from the kitchen, the one who brought wine and messages. He is breathless, eyes huge. You must move, he whispers. They know. The senator, he's furious. He has sent men, praetorians, not just guards. They search every bridge, every farm. He wants your heads for his wall. Felix's face hardens. Then we go now. Cashin nods, his soldier's mind already calculating. The boy's right. We split up, then circle back. Regroup at the olive grove by the old shrine. Wait until nightfall. No fire, no talking. If one of us doesn't make it, keep moving. You clasp hands, quick and fierce, the bond of blood and brotherhood. Each man vanishes into the pre-dawn mist, hearts pounding, every sound a threat, every shadow a possible friend or foe. The hours that follow are a blur, fields and hedgerows, mud sucking at your sandals, your own heartbeat a drumbeat of survival. At one point, you see a patrol in the distance, their helmets catching the sun. You duck low, crawling through a ditch, breath held, waiting for them to pass. At last, the olive grove. You arrive first, heart hammering, and crouch in the shadows. One by one, the others slip in. Felix, muddy and bruised but grinning. Cashin, limping, a fresh cut on his cheek. The boy is gone, lost to the city or the night. You share what little food remains. Above, the sky turns from gray to gold, dawn breaking over Rome. You are free, but only just. Already, the city is waking, hungry for news, for justice, for blood. Cashin lays out the plan. We follow the river south, keep to the woods. By nightfall, we'll reach the road to Ostia. If we're lucky, we find a fisherman who asks no questions. Felix leans back, staring at the leaves. And if we're not lucky? Cashin's smile is grim. Then we fight. We always fight. The three of you settle in, backs against ancient trunks, exhaustion finally overtaking fear. For the first time in years, you sleep without chains, without the threat of the arena. But freedom is not a gift. It is a challenge, a test. Rome will not forget so easily. You dream of sand and blood, of cheers and screams, of a city that eats its children. When you wake, the world is silent save for the song of distant birds. The sun is high, a new day has begun, and with it, a chance. A slim, trembling chance to remake yourselves. You grip the dagger at your belt, feeling its weight. Whatever comes, you are no longer a slave. You are no longer a number. For the first time, you are simply a man on the run, alive, beneath the endless Roman sky. And somewhere, far behind you, Rome seethes with rage. You wake with the sun burning your face and the rough whisper of olive branches above. The city is behind you, at least for now. The grove is silent except for the distant chirp of birds and the low hum of insects. Felix is the first to move, stretching his battered limbs, wincing at fresh bruises. Cassian is awake already, knife in hand, scanning the shadows. Old habits die hard. For a moment, it feels almost peaceful. The air smells of earth and crushed leaves, and there is a stillness here that the city never knew. But beneath that quiet, the pulse of fear beats steadily. Rome does not forget. You know that every hour brings soldiers closer, that every bird's cry could hide the footstep of a tracker, that every flash of sunlight on the river might be a helmet, not a wave. Cassian tears a hunk of bread, passes it around. We move in daylight now. They'll expect us to hide by night, but the main roads are less watched under the sun. His voice is low, measured. No fires, no tracks, no speaking names. Remember, the senator's anger is the kind that buys loyalty, the kind that makes men hunt harder. You eat, chewing slowly, fighting the knot in your gut. The bread is stale, the water warm, but every bite is a victory. You tell yourself you are free, but you know the truth. Freedom is another kind of cage, built from the memory of what might be waiting over the next hill. The river leads you south. You skirt the water, keeping to the shade when you can, ducking into groves and thickets at every sound. Felix hums quietly, a broken tune from home. Cassian walks ahead, always a few steps in front, eyes sharp for signs. Broken branches, footprints, a distant flicker of smoke. The countryside opens wide, golden and green. Fields of wheat sway in the wind. Poppies burn red at the edges of the paths. And sometimes you pass shepherds moving their flocks, whistling to their dogs, staring with blank suspicion at strangers in dusty cloaks. You are careful not to speak, to keep your faces down, to avoid even a glance that might betray your desperation. As the sun climbs, sweat beads on your skin. Every step is a test of will. Every bend in the river is a question. At midday, you rest in the lee of a hill, out of sight of the road. Felix pulls a thorn from his foot, cursing under his breath. Cassian hands you his canteen, watching your face as you drink. Do you believe, Felix asks suddenly, that the world is big enough to lose Rome? Cassian smiles, thin and sad. Rome is everywhere, on every coin, in every law, in every rumor whispered in the dark. But Rome is not forever. Nothing is. You nod, but you're not sure you believe it. The empire's reach is long, and you feel its hand on your neck even now. A sudden sound, laughter, close by, makes you freeze. You press yourselves into the earth as a group of farm laborers pass, singing, their voices rough but joyful. They carry sickles and baskets, and their faces are sunburnt, carefree, innocent of the blood and fear you drag behind you. Felix watches them go. Sometimes I think I remember a day like that, he says. Sometimes I think I made it up. Cassian shrugs. We walk forward, not back. You move on, circling wide around a small village, careful to avoid notice. By late afternoon, your legs ache and your throat is dry. You find a hidden spring, drink deeply, then fill your canteens, relishing the cold bite of fresh water. As evening falls, you see the signs of pursuit. Fresh tracks in the mud near a ford. A length of blue wool snagged on a bramble, the distant glint of a bronze helmet. Cashin stops, frowning. They're close. We don't risk the road tonight. We move through the marshes. The marsh is treacherous. Mud sucks at your feet, reeds whip your face, and the hum of mosquitoes becomes a torment. But the land hides you. Your scent is lost in the wet and the rot, your footprints drowned in water. Felix stumbles, nearly falling, but you catch his arm. He grins, teeth white in the gloom. Better mud than the arena, he jokes, and for a moment you laugh, the sound low and desperate, but real. Deep in the marsh, you find an old stone outcrop, half swallowed by water and moss. Cashin tests the ground with his staff. Here, he says, we rest until the moon is high, then we move again. You sit close, cloaks wrapped tight, shivering in the evening chill. The moon rises, pale and huge above the reeds. In the darkness, you share a last scrap of bread, listen to the distant howl of a wolf, and watch the stars shimmer above the mist. Felix leans his head back. If I die tomorrow, at least I saw the sky, he whispers. You close your eyes, willing yourself to remember every detail. The sharp scent of mud, the brush of Felix's shoulder, the cold press of Cashin's hand on your arm. These moments are all you have. Somewhere in the dark, a heron cries. You flinch, heart racing, but it is only a bird. Cashin squeezes your shoulder. We're still here. That's all that matters. But as you settle into uneasy sleep, the truth claws at you. Freedom is not just running, not just surviving. It is choosing who you will become, if you live long enough to decide. Your dreams are fevered, sand and blood, chains and laughter, the roar of a crowd and the cool touch of water on your tongue. You see the senator's face, twisted with rage, and behind him, the city burning, voices screaming your name as both curse and praise. You wake before dawn, cold and sore, the marsh thick with fog. Cashin is already up, crouched at the edge of the water, watching. Felix dozes, a faint smile on his lips. You want to hold on to this moment, to make it last, but already you hear the distant clatter of hooves. The search has begun again. You rouse Felix, gather your things. Cashin points south. Ostia, if we make the port, we're ghosts. If not, he leaves the rest unsaid. You slip into the water, moving with the current, letting the reeds hide you. The world narrows to the sound of your own breath, the cold on your skin, the knowledge that every hour is borrowed time. But as the sky brightens, a new feeling stirs. Hope, stubborn and bright as the morning sun. You are hunted, hungry, exhausted, but you are not broken. Not yet. And somewhere beyond the marsh, the open sea waits. A promise, a possibility, a horizon not yet claimed. Dawn bleeds across the marsh, gold and pale blue reflected in pools of standing water. The fog lifts in slow tatters, unveiling the endless flatlands that border the Tiber's mouth. For the first time, you can smell the distant sea. A tang of salt on the morning breeze, so sharp it almost stings. You follow Cashin, who walks with his head low but his eyes alive, scanning for movement. The ground firms beneath your feet as you leave the reeds behind. The river's current grows stronger, wider, and the city of Ostia appears at last. A sprawl of docks, warehouses, and tenements hugging the shore, all wrapped in a briny haze. Smoke curls from cook fires, and the raucous shouts of dockworkers drift across the water. Even now, as the world seems intent on hunting you, the port thrums with the pulse of commerce, oblivious to the desperation at its doorstep. Cashin halts behind a stand of wild fennel, pulling the group close. We're too exposed here. Stay off the main roads. Head for the fish market, then to the lower docks. Look for a tavern with a red awning. I have an old contact. His voice is clipped, cautious. If I say run, you don't look back. Understood. You nod, heart thundering. Felix adjusts his cloak, trying to hide the worst of his bruises. If there's wine, I want the first cup, he jokes, but there's fear beneath the words. You slip into the town with the first rush of early workers. Bakers with flour on their cheeks, porters groaning under sacks of grain, sailors stumbling from brothels and inns. You keep your heads down, faces shadowed, avoiding the gaze of any who look too long. Rome's reach is everywhere. Its laws, its informers, its soldiers. The fish market is chaos. Men shouting, gutting eels and herring on stone slabs, women haggling over baskets of clams, gulls screeching overhead. The smells are overwhelming. Brine, scales, smoke, sweat. You duck behind a row of salt barrels as a patrol passes, their armor crusted with dried mud, eyes sharp. Felix leans in, voice barely a whisper. There, red awning. You see it, faded but bright in the morning sun, draped over a low tavern wedged between a warehouse and a rope-maker's stall. Cassian leads, shoulders tense. He knocks twice, then 3 times, a rhythm lost to all but those who know it. The door opens just a crack, a single eye peering out. Then, recognition. The door swings wider and a woman, her hair wrapped in a blue scarf, ushers you in. Quick, quick. You look like wolves chased you all the way from the mountains. Inside, it's dim and smoky. The floor is stained with wine and the air smells of stale beer, but it's shelter. Cassian embraces the woman briefly. I owe you, he says. Again. She shrugs. You always say that. I'm still waiting to collect. She gives you bread, cheese, and a jug of watered wine. As you eat, Cassian speaks quietly with her at the bar, their words hidden by the buzz of a morning crowd that grows as laborers and sailors stumble in. Felix sips wine, eyes darting to the door. Feels too safe, he mutters. Like the arena before the gate opens. You watch Cassian return, grim. She can get us a place on a ship, he says. But it won't be cheap, and the next vessel out is bound for Massalia. We'd be cargo, no names, no questions, and not much space. Felix shrugs. Cargo is better than corpses. But the woman raises a hand. There's a problem. Word came this morning, Praetorians arrived from Rome with sketches and descriptions. They're checking the docks, bribing anyone who'll listen. Your faces are not unknown here. She eyes you with a mixture of pity and calculation. If you're seen, you're finished. Cassian frowns, thinking hard. What about the old tunnels under the wharf? She hesitates, then nods. Risky, but yes. They open onto the western quay, right where the ships load for the open sea. The hours crawl by. You wait in the darkness of the tavern, listening to the rising tide of Ostia. The boom of hammers, the creak of ships, the arguments of merchants, the music of survival. Every footstep outside is a threat. Every new arrival a possible enemy. The woman brings word. The city is crawling with soldiers. Some in uniform, others in plain tunics, the kind who kill with silence. Felix sharpens his knife on the edge of the table, hand shaking slightly. Cassian moves from window to window, checking the street. You try to rest, but every muscle is wound tight as a bowstring. Afternoon slides toward dusk. The woman returns, urgency in her voice. It's now or never. The ship will sail at midnight. You have to move through the tunnels now. She leads you out a back door, down a winding alley that stinks of fish and tallow. You pass through a cramped storeroom, then descend into the earth. Stone steps slippery with algae, the darkness swallowing you whole. The tunnel is tight, the air foul with the reek of dead rats and seawater. Your footsteps echo. Felix stumbles once, cursing softly. You grip his arm, steadying him. Above you, the city goes about its business, oblivious to the drama beneath its feet. Cassian moves fast, never pausing, counting turns by memory. At last, you see the faint glimmer of moonlight ahead, a grill pried open by earlier conspirators. You emerge onto the lower quay, breathless. The tide slaps at the pilings. Farther down, the ship waits, a battered merchant vessel, its crew loading amphorae by lantern light. The woman points. Go. Now, don't stop for anyone. If they call, don't look back. You dash along the quay. Suddenly shouts. There! By the water! A patrol has spotted you. Felix sprints, Cassian right behind, and you are close enough to see the ship's gangplank. A soldier lunges from the shadows, blade flashing. Cassian hurls himself forward, tackling the man. The two tumble to the ground. Go! Cassian yells. Felix hesitates, torn, but you grab his arm. Together you race up the gangplank. The captain shouts orders. The crew pulls ropes. The ship lurches from the dock, and you glimpse Cashin in the struggle below. One last blow, then he breaks free and dashes for the water, diving in as arrows whistle overhead. Felix is screaming, reaching for Cashin. For a terrible moment you think he's lost. But then you see a head bobbing in the dark water, arms striking out for the ship. A crewman throws a line. Cashin grabs it, hauls himself aboard, dripping and gasping, blood streaming from a gash on his shoulder. You drag him onto the deck as the ship pulls away from Ostia, the shouts of the soldiers fading behind you, the city shrinking to a glow of lanterns and torches along the black shore. You collapse on the planks, exhausted beyond words, Felix sobbing with relief. Cashin grins, teeth flashing in the moonlight. "We're not safe," he says, "but we're free. For now." You sit up, breathless, watching the coastline recede. The open sea yawns ahead, endless and terrifying, the sky streaked with stars. Somewhere beyond the horizon is a new life, if you can reach it. Felix looks at you, then at Cashin. "What now?" he asks, voice ragged. Cashin laughs. A sound born of pain and victory, hope and exhaustion. "Now we find out what it means to be free men. Now, at last, we decide our own fate." The three of you huddle together, battered but alive, as the ship sails into the darkness, leaving Rome and its hunger behind. And for the first time, truly, you dare to believe that your story does not have to end in blood. Salt spray stings your face as the ship leaves Ostia behind, and for a moment you feel weightless. The air is brisk, the deck cold beneath your bare feet, and the wind hums in the rigging like a restless spirit. Rome shrinks on the horizon, a smear of lantern light soon swallowed by the rolling dark. It is not freedom, not yet, but it is the farthest you have ever been from the sand and blood of the arena. The merchant ship is no trireme. She is squat, heavy, her timbers groaning under the weight of wine amphorae and sacks of olive oil. The crew are Phoenicians, their speech guttural and strange, faces weathered like driftwood. The captain, a barrel-chested man with a silver earring, eyes you with a merchant's suspicion and a smuggler's calculation. "You are cargo, not guests," he warns, voice thick with accent. "Keep below when the sun is high. Soldiers still watch for runaways, even at sea." Cashin lies on a pile of rope, his shoulder wrapped in a filthy cloth. Felix kneels beside him, prodding the wound, wincing at the angry, swollen flesh. "You need a healer," Felix mutters, voice grim. Cashin grits his teeth. "We'll find one in Massalia, or I'll die a free man." For hours you stand at the rail, watching the water churn white behind the ship. You have never seen the open sea before. It is vast, endless, alive with the promise of worlds beyond the reach of Rome. But the fear lingers. Each time a sail appears on the horizon, the captain orders the ship to drift or hide behind a headland. "Too many eyes," he says. "Too many coins for a slave returned to Rome." Below deck, you sleep among the cargo. Crates of dried figs, stacks of pottery, bundles of damp wool. The hold is dark and hot, the air thick with the sour tang of wine and sweat. Felix tells stories to pass the time. Tales of Greek gods who fled their fate, of warriors who won freedom through cunning. Cashin, feverish from his wound, mutters of home, of battles won and lost, of a brother left behind on the sands. At dawn, the crew wake you with kicks and curses. "Help or starve," the captain growls. You haul ropes, scrub decks, patch leaks in the sail with stolen cloth. Felix's hands, quick and nimble, soon earn gruff respect from the sailors. He trades jokes in broken Greek, learns a filthy song or two. You struggle with the knots and the dizzying sway of the deck, your stomach lurching with every wave. Days blur together. Sunrises painted in pink and gold, nights heavy with stars. Once, a pod of dolphins races the ship, their sleek bodies flashing in the blue. Felix laughs, pointing. "Good omen," he says. "The gods watch runaways." Cashin merely grunts, sweat beading on his brow. But the Mediterranean is fickle. One morning, black clouds gather to the north, and the captain's face turns ashen. "Storm," he mutters. "Hold fast." Winds rise, shrieking in the rigging. Rain lashes the deck. Waves crash over the rail, soaking you to the bone. The ship pitches and groans, timbers shuddering as though the sea itself means to swallow you. Crewmen curse, praying to strange gods, scrambling to tie down cargo. Below, you clutch a wooden beam, heart pounding. The hold is chaos. Barrels rolling, ropes snapping, water pooling on the floor. Felix grabs your arm, eyes wild. "If we sink, swim for the debris, never the open water." Wood floats. Men don't. You nod, unable to speak. Cashin clings to the mast, lips moving in silent prayer. Hours pass in terror. Thunder cracks above. Lightning flashes, turning the sea white. At last, the winds relent. The sky clears to silver. The ship survives, battered but afloat, sails ragged and torn. Dawn finds you alive, blinking in disbelief. The captain claps you on the back, grinning, teeth gold and broken. "You are lucky rats," he shouts. "Even Jupiter cannot drown you." But luck is a currency that runs thin. Supplies are soaked, and Cashin's wound festers. Fever racks his body, his breath shallow. Felix tears his tunic for bandages, tries to cool Cashin's brow with seawater. "Don't die," Felix pleads. "Not now, not after everything." One night, you sit together at the stern, the sky awash in stars. Felix leans close, voice barely a whisper. "If we reach Massalia, what then? Hide? Beg? Join a circus and fight for coins?" You think of Rome, of freedom bought at the edge of a blade, of all the roads that end in chains. "We'll choose," you say, voice firm. "We'll build something new, or die trying." A sudden cry from above. A lookout, shouting. Land ahead. The captain steers toward a crescent bay, lights flickering along the distant shore. Massalia, a city of Greeks and traders, a place where Roman law does not always reach. As the ship drifts toward the docks, the captain turns to you one last time. "You leave here, you are nothing to me. If you are wise, you vanish into the alleys. If you are lucky, you never see Rome again." You clasp his arm, a gesture of thanks. Felix grins, his eyes bright with hope and exhaustion. Cashin stirs, fighting the fever, and you help him to his feet. The gangplank thuds against the dock. You step into the city, 3 figures lost in the shadows, breathless with fear and wonder. The air is thick with incense and foreign voices, the streets alive with music and quarrels. This is not home, but it is not prison. Felix laughs, a sound almost free. Cashin, leaning on your shoulder, manages a weary smile. "Alive," he whispers. "Still alive. But even here, danger lingers. You are hunted men in a world ruled by betrayal and gold. Yet as you vanish into the twisting alleys of Massalia, a new kind of courage stirs within you. Not the courage of the arena, but the courage of men who have survived the worst Rome could throw at them. And somewhere, deep in your heart, you begin to believe that hope, like salt on the wind, can carry you farther than fear. The city of Massalia breathes in a language you barely understand. Greek traders haggle over amphorae in the morning sun. Gallic merchants bring baskets of wild honey and salted fish, and the alleys throb with a chaos that feels nothing like Rome. And yet, the city has a pulse of its own, just as ruthless, just as sharp. You help Cashin down the gangplank, his face pale with fever, lips cracked. Felix slips into the crowd, returning with a greasy bundle of bread and goat cheese. "Eat," he urges. "There's a healer somewhere near the marketplace. Someone who asks no questions, for a price." Cashin manages a nod. "I'll crawl if I must." Moving through Massalia is an exercise in tension. You keep to the shadows, heads lowered. Even here, where the law speaks Greek and the harbor flies foreign banners, you know Rome's gold can buy almost any favor. Yet for now, you are ghosts. No names, no collars, just 3 battered men limping through streets rich with the scent of olives and sweat. The healer is an old Gallic woman, her hut wedged between a potter's shed and a tangle of grapevines. She squints at Cashin, sniffs the wound, and grunts. Lucky you didn't die at sea. Her hands are rough but skilled, her knife quick and clean. She pours wine over the gash, packs it with bitter herbs, then binds it with linen. Cashin bites his lip, refusing to cry out. Rest, eat, pray to your gods, she says. If the fever breaks, you live. Felix pays her with a pair of bronze coins, then tucks you both into a low-ceilinged room above a wine shop, where the windows face only the alley. The walls are thin, the mattress lumpy, but it is the first real bed you've seen in months. You sleep for a day and a night, waking only to the roar of voices and the laughter of sailors below. The next morning, Cashin sits up, sweat-soaked but smiling. I saw my brother, he whispers, half delirious. He was waiting on the shore, waving me on. You share a quiet laugh. Superstition is a shield in this new world. Felix is restless. He explores the city's maze, learning the rhythm of its streets. He returns with news. There are rumors. 3 men matching our description, seen fleeing Ostia. One of the Roman grain merchants says he heard soldiers asking questions. You curse under your breath. Rome is never far away. Cashin shrugs. Let them search. We can't go back, only forward. You spend the days blending in. Felix works for a Gallic baker, hauling sacks of flour. You sweep the wine shop in exchange for bread and a few coins. Cashin, still healing, makes friends with the local children, teaching them how to carve little animals from scraps of wood. Each day, your names fade a little more, and the memory of the arena becomes something like a nightmare, distant and unbelievable. But the shadow of Rome lengthens. One afternoon, Felix returns, face pale. I saw him, a Roman officer, near the docks. He's not here for trade. You know what this means. The city is a web, and you are caught in its strands. Felix urges caution. Stay inside. At night, only move if you must. But Cashin, stubborn and proud, refuses to hide forever. We ran to live, not to cower, he insists. We must become more than fugitives. You meet secretly, late at night, in the tiny room above the wine shop. Plans are made, discarded, remade. We could join a merchant's caravan to the interior, Felix suggests, or find passage on a Greek ship to Alexandria. Cashin, voice barely above a whisper, asks, what if we fought back? What if we helped others, slaves, outcasts, make their own escape? The idea stirs something dangerous, something thrilling. To move from prey to protector, to change the fate of others as well as your own. But risk is everywhere. One night, footsteps sound in the alley below. A voice, low and urgent, speaks in Latin, then another answering in Gallic. You freeze, every muscle tensed. Cashin's hand finds your arm in the dark. Nothing happens. The voices fade, replaced by laughter. But sleep comes only in snatches after that. As weeks pass, you learn to live on the edge, never fully safe, never fully seen. You become part of Massalia's shadows. Listening, learning, becoming invisible. Felix befriends a merchant's son, who offers rumors and scraps of information in exchange for stories of Rome and the games. Your legends. The boy whispers, awe in his eyes. Not men, but spirits escaped from death. Cashin smiles, the old pride flickering for a moment. One evening, as you sit watching the harbor lights, a woman approaches. A trader from Carthage, eyes hard as jet. There are others like you, she says softly. Runaways, broken men. Some hide, some fight. The city listens, even if Rome does not. She leans close. A ship sails for Carthage in 3 days. You could vanish, start over. But there is also work here, work that matters. Massalia is full of cracks. Empires are built on the backs of the forgotten. Decide which side you're on. You turn her words over and over in your mind. To run again, or to stay and shape something out of this fragile freedom. Felix wants to leave. We're not safe, not ever. Cashin wants to fight. We owe it to those left behind. You walk the city at midnight, listening to the sea, watching the moon glitter on foreign water. You think of the arena, of the nights spent praying for a life beyond chains. You think of the senator's face, twisted with rage, and the faces of those who cheered as you bled. And you realize, finally, that your freedom is a knife's edge, dangerous, sharp, and full of possibility. The road ahead is uncertain. Rome is not done with you yet, but you have survived what should have killed you. You are no longer a slave or even a fugitive. You are a man with choices. And as dawn breaks over Massalia, you know the next move is yours. Dawn comes soft and gray over Massalia, the city's rooftops gilded in uncertain light. In the room above the wine shop, your fate trembles on the edge of a coin. Felix paces, hands clenched, eyes darting to the window at every shout from the street. "They'll never stop hunting us," he says. "Carthage is a chance. After that, maybe we finally sleep without fear." Cassian lies awake, the fever fading from his eyes, but replaced by a restless fire. We sleep, and what then? Rome is a wound that doesn't close. How many will still suffer while we run? You stand at the crossroads, between the hunger for safety and the ache to make your pain mean something. For 2 days, you live in the balance. Felix works feverishly to arrange passage to Carthage, slipping coins to stevedores and harbor thieves. The Carthaginian trader, the woman with the obsidian eyes, confirms, "The ship leaves at moonrise. No questions, but you must be ready. If you miss your moment, it will not come again." Her warning is clear. There are spies in every dockside tavern, men who would sell your names for a handful of denarii. Cassian, meanwhile, disappears for hours at a time. You follow him once, keeping to the shadows as he weaves through the labyrinth of alleys and backstreets. You see him meet with men and women whose faces are marked by scars and loss. Runaway slaves, Gallic rebels, Greek outcasts. He listens, nods, shares bread. At night he returns, silent, yet carrying the weight of every story. On the eve of your departure, Cassian calls a meeting in your small room. The candle sputters, throwing shadows on the walls. "I cannot leave," he says. His voice is rough, but clear. "There are too many who have no ship, no coin, no choice but to die in the dark. If I run, I become what they say, a coward, a fugitive. But if I stay, maybe I can change something. Just a little. For them." Felix argues, his words sharp, desperate. "Change what? Rome burns cities for less. What can 3 men do against an empire?" Cassian looks at you. "We can be a spark. In the arena, a single shout could sway a crowd. Here, a single act could save a life. Or 100. The decision falls to you. You weigh every heartbeat. The taste of the sea, the ghost of chains on your wrists, the memory of the senator's wrath. Carthage means escape, a name erased, a life lived in the sun. But Massalia, dangerous, broken Massalia, offers a kind of freedom that costs everything. That night, sleep is impossible. Outside, the city thrums. Drunks singing in Phoenician, dogs barking, the ocean lapping at ancient stones. You stare at the ceiling, searching for an answer. Before dawn, you dress quietly. Felix is awake, sitting on the edge of his bed, turning a coin between his fingers. "If you go," he says, "I go with you. If you stay, I fight beside you. I'm tired of running, but I'm more tired of losing everyone." Cassian squeezes your shoulder. "Whatever you choose, it's more than most ever dared." You step out into the pre-dawn hush. The harbor is already busy. Fishermen hauling nets, merchants shouting over fresh catches, Roman soldiers walking in pairs. The Carthaginian ship rocks at anchor, lanterns swaying, crew ready to depart at a signal. The world waits. Behind you, Massalia's alleys twist into secrets and danger. Ahead, the sea promises oblivion or rebirth. And then a cry. Down the quay, a group of city guards wrestle a thin, limping boy to the ground. His tunic is torn, his face smeared with grime and tears. "Thief!" the guards shout. "Run away." You recognize him. A child who helped Cassian pass messages between the hiding places of the desperate. Cassian tenses beside you. Felix's hand closes on his knife. You realize in that instant what you will do. You walk, fast, not running, toward the chaos. Felix and Cashin fall in at your sides, not needing words. The crowd draws back, curious, afraid. The guards shout again, a warning. You don't stop. Leave him, Cashin says, his voice sharp as a blade. The lead guard sneers. Who are you to command? You lock eyes with him. A free man. The words hang in the air, electric. What happens next is a blur. Felix lunges. Cashin moves like a wolf among sheep. Blows fall, steel flashes. The crowd explodes into confusion. You drag the boy to his feet, pushing him behind you. The guards rally, one swinging a club, but Felix is faster. His fist connects with a crack. For a heartbeat, you stand with Cashin and Felix. 3 men against the machine of Rome, surrounded by faces waiting to see who will flinch first. Then shouts. More guards coming, the alarm raised. You slip into the crowd, dragging the boy, moving fast through the maze of stalls and barrels. Cashin knows every alley now, every hiding place. You run, hearts pounding, lungs burning. You lose the soldiers for now. In the gloom of a baker's cellar, you bandage wounds, share bread, wipe the tears from the boy's face. Felix laughs, wild and breathless. So much for the easy way out. Cashin grins, the fever gone from his eyes. We made a choice, he says. Now we make it matter. The city listens. News spreads. 3 gladiators, outlaws, have struck at the heart of Rome's authority. For some, you are heroes. For others, a new threat. The underworld opens to you. Rebels, slaves, the desperate and the damned come seeking hope, guidance, courage. At night, in a shadowed room above the wine shop, you plan. We are not Spartacus, Cashin says, voice fierce. But we do not have to be alone. Felix nods. One fire lights another. You become a legend in Massalia. Each act of defiance, each life smuggled to safety, each bribe paid to a guard or magistrate, your network grows. Some betray you, some die. Rome's reach is long, and the cost is paid in blood and fear. But the city remembers. Even the smallest hope can catch like tinder. One night, as the stars spill silver on the rooftops, you realize you have done what you came for. Not escaped, not hidden, but changed the shape of the world, however slightly. Cashin clasps your hand, voice choked with pride. For every one of us who falls, 10 more rise. That is Rome's nightmare. And in the quiet after, you see. Despite scars and grief, you are finally, fully, truly free. Years pass. The seasons change in the hills and harbors of Massalia. Empires rise and shudder. Rome continues its hunger, swallowing new lands, forging new chains, but always, always, there are cracks that cannot be mended, truths that cannot be drowned in blood or fear. You are no longer a hunted animal. The city has adopted you, woven you into its tapestry. The scars on your body are maps now, memories of who you were and how far you have come. Your name, once a secret, then a whisper, becomes a story told in the markets and alleys. A tale carried by sailors and slaves, a promise shared by those who dream of life beyond the arena. Cashin never lost his fire. He leads quietly, organizing, teaching the lost and desperate how to hide, how to speak, how to trust one another. His voice is a balm and a warning. Remember the sand, remember the blood, but remember, your life is yours now. He becomes a legend not by sword or by vengeance, but by his stubborn, quiet insistence that no one is beyond saving, that every man or woman cast aside by the empire can stand again. Felix, for all his restlessness, finds a strange peace in this new life. He becomes a master of disguises and false names, guiding runaways through secret routes in the city, outsmarting Roman spies with laughter and trickery. The city's children adore him and his laughter. A sound once rare and bitter, echoes through the streets like the song of a bird that has finally learned the dawn will come. When he speaks of Rome now, it is with a shrug, as if mocking the very idea that a city of stone and marble could control the souls of those who have tasted freedom. And you become something you never imagined. A teacher, a symbol, a quiet fire that refuses to die. You speak to those who come in the night, afraid and trembling. You help them bind wounds, erase brands, learn the words that mean safe, friend, hope. Some you save, some are lost, but always you are there, steady as the stars. A reminder that even the most broken life can forge a new beginning. Your circle grows. At first it is a trickle. One girl with scars on her wrists, a man who escaped a chain gang, a mother who ran when her child was marked for death. But over the years, the trickle becomes a stream. The stream becomes a river. Men and women from every corner of the empire find their way to Massalia, each carrying stories more painful than the last. Each is welcomed, not as a victim, but as a survivor, a warrior, a builder, a thread in the fabric of something new. The Romans know. Sometimes soldiers raid the city, smashing doors, dragging away suspects. Sometimes informers slip knives into the dark, seeking to cut out the heart of your rebellion. But for every ally lost, 10 more rise. Your defiance becomes a legend. Songs sung in the taverns, prayers whispered in the shadows, threats muttered in the halls of power. Beware the ghosts of the arena. The Roman magistrates warn. Their spirit spreads like fire in dry grass. Children grow up hearing your names. They play at gladiators, but in their games, the winner is not the strongest fighter, but the one who can lead others to safety, who dares to speak the forbidden words, "I am free." Decades pass. Massalia changes. The city grows, its streets teeming with merchants, philosophers, and refugees. Old friends fall away, some to old age, some to violence, some to dreams elsewhere. Cashin's hair turns silver. His limp grows worse, but his eyes are as sharp as ever. Felix gains weight, his face round and laughing, but his hands are still quick, his mind sharp as ever. You watch the city transform from the rooftop of the old wine shop, where it all began. The sun sets, painting the sea gold. In the distance, ships arrive from Africa, from Greece, from the wild northern shores. Each brings new stories, new faces, new hope. On quiet nights, you sit with Cashin and Felix, sharing bread and memories. Do you remember the storm at sea? Felix laughs. I thought we'd die before we ever saw this place. Cashin grins. I still have the scar to prove it. And sometimes, when the city is quiet, when the moon is full, when the wind carries the scent of wild herbs and salt, you remember the sand of the arena, the roar of the crowd, the bone-deep terror that once ruled your life. It is another world now, but it is the world that made you. You write letters, never signed, never sent, addressed to those you left behind, to the brother you lost, to the friend who died in the dust, to the nameless thousands who fell unseen and unmourned. In your words, you promise, your pain was not for nothing. Your names will not be lost. One day, a boy comes to your door. He is young, but his eyes are old. They say you help people, he whispers. My sister, she's in chains. You kneel, look him in the eyes, and say the words that once saved you. You're safe here. We will help. The cycle continues. Rome changes. Emperors rise and fall. Armies march, cities burn, but always, always, there are those who slip through the cracks, who defy the impossible. The legend grows. In every slave's whisper, in every rebel's prayer, your story endures. Not because you slew an emperor or toppled a city, but because you proved every day that freedom is possible, even when the whole world says it is not. In your old age, you watch new generations take up your work. Some are bold, loud, fierce. Others are quiet, cunning, invisible. All are brave. All know your story. Some call you teacher. Others call you ghost. You do not mind. You have become more than a man. You have become a possibility. Cashin dies in his sleep, a smile on his lips, surrounded by those who love him. Felix vanishes one night, chasing a rumor of a shipload of chained children bound for the mines in Hispania. You never see him again, but sometimes, when the wind is right, you hear laughter in the market, and you smile, knowing he is out there somewhere, still running, still free. And you, old, bent, scarred, walk the city's streets at dawn, greeting friends, strangers, the children of those you once saved. You pause at the harbor, watching ships depart, knowing that somewhere, in every corner of the world, there are men and women living because you refuse to accept the fate Rome wrote for you. Your last night comes softly, without fear. The moon shines through your window. You close your eyes and see 1,000 faces. Cassian, Felix, the boy you saved, the crowds who once cheered and jeered. You hear the sound of the sea, the roar of the arena, the quiet breathing of a city at peace. In your dreams you run, faster than any chariot, lighter than any fear. The sand is warm beneath your feet, the sky endless. No chains, no cages, only freedom. And so you pass, not into darkness, but into memory. The story endures not because it was grand or bloody or crowned with glory, but because it was real, because you dared, in a world built on cruelty, to choose kindness. Because you proved that hope, like fire, spreads. Somewhere, far away, a young woman tells her child a story as they watch the ships come in from the horizon. Once, there were 3 men who refused to die in chains, she says. They changed the world, not with swords, but with courage. The child listens, eyes wide with wonder. And so your life becomes what all lives long to be. A light for others to follow, a reason to hope, a promise that even in the empire's darkest shadow, freedom waits for those bold enough to claim it. Before you go, tell me, where in the world are you listening from? And what's your favorite food? I'm a hopeless foodie and love discovering what keeps you inspired. Drop your city and your best dish in the comments. If this story carried you far from home, if you felt the dust of the arena or the salt of the sea, let me know by hitting the like button, subscribing, and sharing this journey with a friend who needs a spark of hope. There's another forgotten truth waiting for you, right now on screen. Tap it and let's keep changing the world one story at a time. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and never let go of your freedom.